Yeah.
I forgot to put myself on the agenda, so I'm
Oh,
hoping
okay.
that you guys will find time to, I'm gonna give you bids and,
The electrical.
no, for cabinets,
For what?
cabinets.
Oh.
We,
Okay, here's what the capital improvement plan says right now. It just says purchase equipment for the county clerk's office, county treasurer's office, appraiser's office, refuse department, and register of deeds. So I mean, you could put the county attorney's office in it if you wanted to, and take purchases from there. Well, I guess I must have printed it twice, so there's 2 copies.
What if we changed it to equipment that stays in the courthouse? That way, if that ever changes, those cabinets belong to the courthouse general, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't have to mess around with changing individual budgets or paying for particular departments. And that's my suggestion. That way we can do like we did when we shuffled everything around. We just took, we own this desk, we move it down there. We own that desk, we move it. And then we don't have to worry about which department. Because the district court does own, they did purchase out of their own budget those big cabinets already. So
Out
technically
of
they
county
don't,
general funds, yeah.
the county general fund
Well,
paid for it?
Their fund is within the county general fund.
I
So-
know, but I'm saying, if you were just to break it down by department, that way when we say that they go here or there, it's because we bought them and we say where they go, you know?
I think the majority, part of the reason why it's that way is because those were the funds that was contributed into the capital improvement fund.
When they had a rollover.
Which technically, I guess you could even do any county general fund.
How about we just change number 6, it says repair, restore, or rehabilitate the courthouse, we could say, or furnish. Repair, restore, rehabilitate, or furnish the courthouse. That way we can furnish needed pieces of equipment or furniture, literally furniture. I would say that would be the simplest revision that doesn't change the meaning of what we're trying to do with that fund. approve minutes from September 10th, 2018 as presented.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'd move to approve the minutes of the September 11th meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Interrupt you a second. I brought this in a second. It isn't an apple.
Oh, thank you.
Bribery.
Did you bring the bacon?
I think
Thank
Laurie
you.
ate that.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
He was gonna be here.
Okay.
You want half of mine?
No. Thank you.
I keep trying to get rid of them.
Judge Cudney is on the agenda. I didn't know how long that would take, so Mike and Dustin know that they're just following them, and that you guys might be running behind, because I didn't know if you guys
Okay.
actually would go up and look.
We'll see what,
I wasn't really sure.
What they say
what the
first.
plan
where the
was.
discussion goes, I guess.
Yeah.
I move to amend Resolution 99-35, Lincoln County Multi-Year Capital Improvement Plan.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Hold on, I'm gonna
Oh,
say
oh.
exactly what I wanna put in.
I'm sorry.
I'm just waiting for Dawn.
That's okay, my computer's not, so.
Okay, altering number 6 to include the word furnish. So it will read repair, restore, rehabilitate, or furnish the courthouse.
Do you want to redo this before we,
If you guys go ahead, I can change it and then go upstairs
Okay.
and get it printed and bring it.
It's just sign it, yeah.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We got invited to the football game Friday, last Friday. In case you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, I accidentally zipped that open, but I didn't accidentally zip, so as soon as I zipped, it's like, oh, that was.
I think we were all aware of it anyway. David, let's go ahead and get you going through here. We'll get kind of a busy schedule this morning.
Morning, how are you today?
Pretty good.
Good. EMPG paperwork that I need signed on the back by the chair for the commission to allow me to submit the paperwork for the emergency management performance grant for 2018. The deadline is September 30th, October 1st, and I'm going to have it done by the end of the week. So is when I'll submit the paperwork. They haven't said yet, and I think that all depends on how many counties apply. Like last year, it was $7,700, and in the past, I've been told that it will more than likely remain about that same amount.
Is this the grant that depends on your coordinating of a particular exercise?
Mhm. Yes.
And so do you have a new plan for an exercise for, or this is for next year?
Well, actually, that's for this year.
Oh, it says 18, okay.
Yeah, and the grant.
So we have one in mind, but we're not gonna do that one. So in order for you to comply to get the grant, do you have a new plan for?
Looking at, and again, it's gotta be a tabletop, a full scale, or a functional to qualify for that grant. Planning to communicate with the young lady that's now in charge of the high-rise with where the seniors live, as far as evacuation and housing, and where those people will go, along with the fire department, EMS, as far as responding to that incident.
Do you ever go to tornado drills for the schools?
I haven't been invited. As a member of the school board over in Sylvan, I know they're supposed to do 9 active shooter, some scenario, and 4 weather-related drills.
9
yeah.
active shooters
Yeah.
for weather.
Mandated by the state per grant money that they've rewarded for security for the buildings. That number was set by them. Currently,
The only reason I'm asking is with all the talk about purchasing storm shelters, I didn't know if you were ever involved in coordinating or just looking at the, I mean, it's your position to coordinate that kind of event, so if you just looked at the scenario, if you did attend a practice drill to see how viable everything is, the way that it sits.
right.
You know.
And I haven't been invited, but being a member of the school board, I'm well aware when they have their drills or whatever, good communication with Jude. And Kathy, I frequently communicate with emails here in the Lincoln District also. Excuse me, Mrs. Robertson.
I'll move. Chairman sign the application.
Second.
A motion and a second. If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Thank you. Last year when I was out in Pueblo at the hazmat tech training class, the county allowed me to be able to put my meals on the county credit card along with my fuel receipts that we get reimbursed for by the Department of Homeland Security. I will be again attending a class, a management class out in Pueblo. The class dates from October 1st to the 5th. And I will be driving out on Sunday, September 30th, and returning Saturday, October 6th. 40-hour course utilizes NIMS ICS guidelines and is designed to prepare participants in the leadership and management of hazmat, weapons of mass destruction incidents involving service transportation. So again, if an accident happens coming through the county, again, I'll be more versed in the things that need to happen. Last year when I was out there, the commission allowed me to put my county meals on the credit card, and then it was just reimbursed that way, along with the department, or with the travel mileage that I will be receiving also.
Don, how do you pay that? Do you just take a check from his fund to put towards that payment that when the credit card comes due, or how do you do that?
Yes. So the reason why he's asking is because if it's not an overnight stay, then it has to go on their payroll, and so we do not allow people to charge, depending on what that is, and we always reimburse them. But because it is an overnight stay, we would have to pay the dollar amount limits. So yes, the state under the certain dollar amounts that we have, but then the state reimburses.
And again, Homeland Security, their per diem rate is $52 for the 3 meals a day, which again, the hotel supplies breakfast. We're out 26 miles from Pueblo, out in the middle of nowhere in eastern Colorado, and they provide lunch at the facility, so the only meal that I'm responsible for them is supper.
see a problem, they're getting reimbursed for it, so. Do you want a motion, Don, or?
I think that's what you guys said last year.
I move we allow the emergency manager to use a credit card while he's on his training for meals and gas.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Currently, I've been working on the GL Hewitt grant from Minneapolis, and also the Post Rock Foundation grant, referenced the storm sirens that I approached the commission about a while back. When the grants that I'm writing get submitted and approved, I'm asking permission to move the siren from Center and 5th Street here in Lincoln to the lot with the new generator located at Lincoln Park Manor. The siren would be then run on the generator should power to the city of Lincoln get compromised. It would still have capability to operate. As the county owns the nursing home, I was told by a member of the repeater board, which works for Precision Electric, that the generator could handle the draw from the siren, and I was wanting to know if we could utilize the generator for that also. And I know
It's now where?
it's now like about a half a block or a block and a half further
South.
south and east, about a half a block.
Oh,
From like where Lincoln Park Manor sits,
yeah.
the road just south of there and just east, the siren sits in a vacant lot
So
on
it's
a
not
on a
moving
pole.
that far.
No, but again, the generator with the backup capability, and I know also that repeater board chairperson Richard Ansel was going to communicate with the hospital about placing, and there's been discussion about having a siren up in the area of the football field in that area, and again, the hospital has a generator, and I know he had already approached the hospital administrator about possibly putting the siren there with their generator and having it tied in that way. So, again, I didn't know if...
Yeah, you have to coordinate that with the city.
Mhm.
Would the pole be on the property of LPM, or, well, our,
Lincoln Park, yes,
I mean,
yes,
our property, but
yes,
where?
ma'am. Mhm.
This would be a new pole,
Yes,
and the county would own the pole, because it's, how does that work? The
The
repeater
county
board
would-
just owns the actual mechanism, but the pole would be on county property, so.
I would say the city might be willing, I don't know.
to move it to that location, or...
Yeah. So
Again.
basically, it involves their protecting their people,
Mhm.
so.
And again, also, I'm meeting with a representative from Storm Sirens Inc., a tornado siren company out of Norman, Oklahoma. He's meeting me here, in Beverly, and we're gonna tour the county on the 21st and give him locations on what I'm wanting to do to accommodate this grant and make the people of the county aware. And with that, we're gonna have the discussion about, I wanna move this siren here to this location, I wanna put a siren here at this location, and the company that he works for, they have all the poles. They'll bring the poles along with the storm sirens. As to the first company that I spoke with, it was my responsibility to get the poles. So,
I've had some questions about that, just from the city, because I know you had approached the city about their siren in Sylvan. And so, and this may be more of a question for Dawn, or if you guys understand the process, I'm not familiar, but the repeater board itself is a separate entity. Does it have a separate mill levy to it? No. Do we fund it out of the general fund?
No, I don't believe so. How it's funded is each of the fire districts, the ambulance service.
Pay a
I guess
fee.
the sheriff's department pays a fee, so there's a little bit out of the general fund out of the sheriff's budget.
The only thing I remember we really spent out of the general fund is when we redid the entire system.
We bought the system out of the general
Yeah,
fund
because they
for
didn't
the
have
repeater
it.
board.
And,
So-
occasionally there'll be some kind of a major expense come up.
But it's an appointed board,
Yes.
Yeah.
but I know that much by us, and they are spending money that is collected through fees, not necessarily through taxation. I mean, obviously it's tax money, but in essence,
It's like a user fee, so the people that use it, and their board determines how much each of the fees are for each of the entities. And I think we bill the school districts, the hospital, I think we do that.
so all of these same separate, and all of these entities are separately paying a fee for the repeater board. Are they also paying a communications fee?
No.
Okay, but then they are paying a fee for, what is the program? Civic Ready.
The cities are,
Some
yes,
of them
and the
are.
school
The
districts are,
cities and the
yes,
schools, okay.
yes,
It's
and the hospital,
basically the only money they spend is maintaining the system.
the system.
And to pay
Right.
like the electric bills,
Yeah.
pay repairs every once in a while.
The repeater board pays what electric bills?
Where the main towers are at, there's,
Does that come through your office? Are you doing that?
yes, we pay their bills. And then we bill out each of the entities once a year, so in February of each year.
Are you getting paid by the repeater board to do their administration?
Partly because the couple of utility bills that we pay, we're already paying to those companies to begin with, so it's just that entering a couple of bills in line.
Does Civic Ready have separate electric bills and/or
Civic Ready, there is no electric charge, it's
Okay.
all done on computer
Just
and the
through that
cloud and through that
program.
platform, yes.
okay? And you're not on the repeater board.
No, ma'am.
There's representatives from each fire department basically, and rescue
EMS.
squad and EMS. The entities that use the repeater have a representative on them.
But the equipment is in the sheriff's office.
No.
Repeater, the main repeater sits out on the hill out by Vesper, at the Vesper turnoff, where the,
To the north. About
I draw a blank on the hill.
So who
Murphy Hill.
who made,
Isn't there one north of town too?
Yes.
how many locations? 2?
Now there's one down by the lake, there's the one up on the hill, there's one right up here, and there's one up in the barn area
4.
also. Yes, at least 4, yes.
there are those.
And there, I think there's,
Who maintains those locations, maintenance-wise?
the repeater.
the repeater board, they have a technician that they hired,
They pay.
yes, biannually will go out and do checks on the equipment at the site.
I think the repeater board was established years ago to get everybody on the same channel, and so everybody could talk to each other, and it's what, $80,000 or more worth of equipment.
But
So,
there's no common denominator for a board member between our communications department, our EMS department, you, and the repeater board, and the fire departments. It's basically the fire departments, each one has a representative on the repeater board, and how many are on that board?
7.
I think.
I was thinking 9, I don't know why.
Jeremy Lepke, Richard Ansel, Troy Anderson,
I know we just did, I think, 2 new appointments.
Brett Kingan,
So Brett
John
Kingan is
Allred.
on the repeater board.
yes.
Okay.
Jeremiah,
Jeremiah Zacco, right.
Michael, I think,
So,
so Micah.
So you do all their bookwork? You keep their funds and their receipts and all of their,
The county does, yes. So Fund 70 is repeater bill. So when you're looking through your printout, that's Fund 70.
okay.
Which my guess is probably when they were originally formed, it was the county that pushed to form it to get communications on it.
So they're just going, so their physical property are the actual systems that are in the 4 locations, and now the sirens, if everything goes through.
the voters are in different locations than where the sirens are.
The what?
the voters that help run the repeater are in different locations than where the sirens are.
Okay,
Like for example, in Sylvan, there's the 3 different sirens. And I couldn't tell you where the voter is. I haven't talked to
The
Justin.
lake, getting at the lake. There's a voter
I
at the
think
lake.
so.
but I'm saying
yes,
their
yes.
physical property that they own are the systems themselves and the sirens, and then, I don't know what a voter is, but you're saying that is another separate piece of equipment. It's not in the same location as the repeater or the siren.
Correct.
And there's one per siren or one per repeater, or,
There's got to be a voter on each tower.
There's a voter in Barnard, there's a voter in Hunter, there's a voter at the lake, and there's a voter at Westfall, I believe. Or did they move it to Crop Services Tower? It used to be on Crop Services Tower.
And again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Basically, the voters are used in the far outline of areas that are far enough away from the repeater that they have problems talking back in on these little handheld radios.
So it's
the
like
voters
additional
are spread
an
around
additional
the
receiver.
outskirts of the county
To assist
to aid
in
the little
covering
radios
the
and
whole-
getting to the repeater.
So
The
is it
repeater is on that tower,
kind of like a
Murphy's
little
Hill.
booster?
Murphy's Hill, yeah.
Is it kind of like that booster that boosts
Yeah.
The signal.
And it's so they can talk back. It doesn't have anything to do with it.
Transmission.
Repeater talking out. Those little radios are like 2 watt, so they need a little help when you get out 15, 20 miles away from them. Now you can sit down on the interstate most days and talk, no problem on handheld, but kind of weather conditions and different things play into that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I had no answers, so now I have some. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Then last week, after meeting with the board, I communicated with Sheriff Weigel about possibly doing a presentation with a PowerPoint, and he said that he would facilitate that he would help do that, kind of do a question and answer session with the courthouse employees and or all the county employees. Again, was looking at, I'd given him a time frame, 11 to 12, and then from 12 to 1, possibly do lunch on October 8th, Columbus Day. And then from 1 to 2:30, LaDonna Reiner, the Health Department Administrator, along with 3 of her staff, would help do stop the bleed training that we had all gone to up in Mitchell County. And was trying to do that back to back to where the active shooter would kind of resonate the stop the bleed training. And with the incident in Sedgwick County last night where the law enforcement official got shot and killed, again, was just wanting to approach the commission about that.
So
I think it would be well to have all county employees versed on that video or that scenario.
PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, that PowerPoint presentation, I think it's extremely important.
Right.
I think you can coordinate it, Mike. I don't have a
Columbus
problem
Day,
with it.
is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the plan?
Yes, October 8th.
Do we have
Sorry.
much
And then-
insurance stuff going there? Is
Do
that
you have
gonna work?
EMS
or-
involved with the stop bleeding training, or?
We
I don't know
but we
if,
were
I don't know
going
if
to
anybody's
change
trained at this time, if they've actually had the course. And again, it's basically, once you've had the course, then you can become a trainer. So LaDonna Reiner, in fact, this
I
afternoon.
mean, she's gonna do the training though.
She's gonna do the PowerPoint, and then we have some hands-on stuff that you actually get stuff into.
Is that also on Columbus Day?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And
That's
so I'm
what they're
saying,
wanting to do.
Yes.
right, and are we gonna have EMS there, is my question.
I don't know. This is my thing about the Columbus Day training. I was gonna change up just a little bit and actually schedule people in to see Aflac. Aflac is who we get our insurance through. They run the Section 125 plan in order for us to get our insurance pre-taxed. And what I was going to do, because there is not a lot of changes with insurance, is have scheduled appointments in which the employees, but in order to get all of the employees through, they need the entire day with 5 people in. And then what our thoughts was that as soon as they got done with them, then they would come up to the courthouse and we would get them taken care of with their insurance and those that want to have help. Because, no offense, there are people that are not technologically good, and so therefore they need assistance. Because I am not going to be able to explain 20,000 times what is changing with their health insurance, what is this, what is that, trying to help people online. So we thought maybe if we did it all in that one day, then your work productivity will be increased because they're not constantly coming up bothering us or bothering Liz or anybody else. It's more the highway department that's more of a concern. So that was my intention when I thought we weren't maybe going to have any training, was that we just do that. And they literally have a schedule
But
from
what's
7
the
till
time?
3.
Okay, but what's the time slot for per employee? 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
So
but
they
your
could
time-
miss, they could potentially leave for 15.
Or again, too, I could
Where are you doing
facilitate.
this?
I don't know. I didn't know if we wanted to do it upstairs here in the courthouse in the courtroom, as district court, being a state agency, will be closed that day. Or again, down at the Finch. Again, I don't
You're
know.
doing the Affleck at the Finch.
We're doing Affleck
Okay.
at the Finch, and then we thought we would have them come up here, and I'm not gonna have all the outside vendors because it's just crazy. And no offense, what we have troubles with employees is they come up, if we have Affleck come on a different day, they come up, and then they'll be like sitting in the hallway, and they'll be like, oh, you go ahead of me, and oh, you go ahead of me. And the next thing you know, an employee has sat there for 3 hours.
But I think
Because
we can rotate employees into that and still do the other stuff.
I mean, how long is the
I
presentation?
just
If they
don't
miss
know
15
because-
minutes, is that gonna be the end of the world? I mean,
Here, I'll tell you how she has it scheduled right there. And then we can see.
when are you planning, starting first thing in the morning or during an afternoon session?
Well, I was doing like right before lunch and then stop a meeting in the afternoon. But again, we could move that whole thing to the afternoon if we
Well,
wanted to.
okay, so the most employees are in the highway department, and they're not going to be involved.
Correct.
So,
Okay, I have right now 7 AM to 10 AM, road and bridge employees will go see outright. 10 to noon will be law enforcement employees, which includes.
so that's a conflict right there.
Yes. 1 to 2 is all the courthouse staff, 2
That's
to
another
3 is all the health department staff, and the bus employees. Not that we can't change that up a little bit, but you can see, because
Can
they
you-
counted how many employees there were and
Yeah.
how much time that they would need.
Can you do one session early morning and not do again till after lunch? Because that way, when the highway department's doing AFLAC, you can use the law enforcement people and potentially EMS and courthouse first thing in the morning at the courthouse. And then that means the highway department will be at the Finch while you're here with the others. Would that be okay, Dawn? Since you said till 10, right?
Yeah, but just so you know, none of my staff we won't be there because we'll be helping, because I'd rather do it that day. And I just don't know how many, what we thought we would do is send out a thing in their paycheck that says, when you come, you need to have your login information with you. And you need to have, if you're adding, what they need to have in order to.
Is anyone
have-
giving a presentation on,
Literally nothing changed except for the HSAs and the HRAs, and there's only about 9 employees that are affected by
but
that.
there's also a cost increase. I mean, can we just put that in the note and just say, we have received, it was like almost 10%, wasn't it?
It's actually, I need to figure out what
She had it on the one
they
paper
were
we were
giving
doing
you,
the budget.
yes, but when
Yeah.
I went to the meeting, it's 20% for anybody that has a spouse.
And it's 10% for an individual plan.
I don't know what that percentage ended up, and this is the other thing that I realized when I was calculating out. So when you're on the state health insurance plan, the employee side increases in January. The employer side increases in July. And when I went to the meeting, I said, I thought they already gave us numbers, and the Ellsworth County clerk was sitting there, and she says, I did too. But then all of a sudden, they gave us new numbers that says, beginning January 1st, this is what it's going to be. So the state of Kansas, when they're charging their employees, they charge them a minimum amount, and they set that up and identify it. And this is the amount the employee will pay, this is the amount the employer is required to pay. But because we pay more than that, So we pay more than what the state says that we should pay towards an employee health plan, or I shouldn't say should, but could pay. It's hard because I don't think we did increase employees' health insurance in July, is what I'm getting at. So the question is are we doing a 10% increase in January and a 10% increase in July? Every time we see an increase, are we charging the employees? Does that make sense? Because we've never done that in the past.
Which have we never done?
We've never increased them, we've only increased them one time per year. Of course, last year was the first year that we went to where they were paying 10%. But if you understand what I'm saying,
You're saying when that second increase comes in July, is that also going to be an increase for them out of their paycheck to cover the plan? Well, I don't know how we calculated it for the budget. I guess we need to re-look at that whole spreadsheet. Can we do that next week?
yes, the thing that I'm not sure about is I'm assuming they're gonna send us another spreadsheet come June or July. So even
We
then,
don't- we
we
can't
don't really
project,
know
yeah.
how much it is. So it's just, that's what the difficult thing is about the state. And the state doesn't see an issue with it because, you know, they're only increasing the employer side, which is the amount that they have to increase. So we're not seeing the overall picture.
And their year ends June, so that's, puts everything in half a year off.
So I will bring what was at the budget, I will bring what is, and apparently they are calling this the last catch-up. So to catch up the premiums to where they should be at. So that's the reason why there's such the massive increase in.
I guess we're not going to know what that increase is gonna be. I don't know how we can
But we
make
still
a
need
decision
to,
on it until we see what it is.
but I think she's saying we still need to make the decision when it comes to tell them this is coming, or it's being absorbed by what we budgeted per plan. No matter what the amount is, we need to make a declaration of whether it's going to come out of the employee side or if our budget absorbs it.
Yes.
Which we need to see what the budget even says for what we calculated as a total price.
And we're not gonna know what the increase is gonna be till July.
Until
so-
June or July.
So we're not gonna really know whether the budgeted funds are nothing on.
But if you calculate it by percentage, you should be able to figure out pretty closely, not dollar amount, but percentage wise.
You know, if I kind of understood it right, it wasn't the motion that the employees pay 10% of the insurance premium. So in my estimation, in July, we should have increased everybody's plans
Yeah,
by
that's
10%.
why I would, that's my interpretation of
But we
it too.
didn't.
We did.
We
But I
did,
guess
yeah,
we
that
didn't
was the
realize there'd
motion.
be a
second-
increase in July.
a
Yeah.
mid-year
But I
change.
think it needs to be explained to the employees that health insurance increases are twice a year, and they will have to bear part of that increase, because,
To the 10%.
yes.
So,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I know we have people waiting in the hall. We can continue to discuss that. I think you should, personally, I mean, I can't speak for them, but I think you should
I'll
continue
communicate
to
with Dawn.
plan
I'll
that.
communicate with Dawn and get that set up.
that'll be fine.
Well, and we can move out, I'd like some appointments around a little bit too. I just
Thank you.
trying to make sure we keep up
I think
productivity.
I think you're right, Don. I think we need to take care of all that insurance on one day. There's no sense in people taking time off. However, I also think that what we're doing with Stop the Bleed and the other is extremely important too, so I don't know whether we have to do two presentations or something, but I think the employees need to hear that too, just to provide a safe workplace.
It sounds to me like if you did if you did the presentation first in the morning with the sheriff's office, if you did the Stop the Bleed in the afternoon, the health department isn't scheduled to go down to the Finch until late afternoon, so right after lunch you'd have the health department people available to you. The way you read the schedule.
It's just a matter of what employees are available, but I kind of wondered if we should provide, is she really gonna do so many employees?
The intent was to, because then again, ultimately, the LAPC is looking at purchasing Stop the Bleed kits in 23 for the County Highway Department. And again, it's trying to get another wound packing things. It's not just for being shot. but if something happens to an individual, you have to put a tourniquet on. The tourniquet is self-applying, and part of the reasoning behind that.
I just wondered if it would be easier to do half of employees in the morning and then the other half in the afternoon, and split them.
I'll communicate that with them, and see what they can.
You can come on up, Kathy, we're ready, I think.
Let me grab some stuff here. I'm just gonna lay these out in front of you. These are all our thank you cards from all the kids, and they're to all of you, so thank you. I just wanted to deliver those. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good morning. Oh.
Dawn, do you wanna get in on the schedule since,
Yeah.
well, I guess until Jennifer gets here, but there's only a few minutes left.
Oh, when she comes. I think she's gonna bring some too. Okay. And I have not heard back from Christopher, so I'm assuming that he told me he'd let me know by Friday. Isn't going to accept the job, but I'll call him today and kind of confirm that, so. Okay, so this bid is for HR. This one would be the smaller ×2 cabinet with the Formica top that you could put up against the wall. It would not have the back side on it. And then this is the bid,
You mean to serve as a countertop
yes,
with a walk-in, okay.
yeah. This is the bid to have the back on it. So you can kind of see what the back costs to have it look like a counter if we thought that that office needed a counter space. Like a barrier between the public and the employee. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but it is a possibility. And the back kit can always be added on, so like if we got the
But
kit.
this open side faces the desk, not the people.
Correct, so that one would be up against the wall. So if you look at the ×2 units, the back side is actually open, so when you press the thing and turn the units, when they turn, they have enough room to
So this is
turn.
hollow the whole way through, or it has one side?
It has two sides. So there's a file on this side and then you flip it and turn them.
But I'm saying the panel,
The panel on this, yeah,
Okay, does this have two and this has one? Or does this have none and this has one?
that one has none. And so when you flip and you turn the file in, you have the side of the file that closes it off. And then you can turn them as you go. This would be an extra kit that would actually close off the area in which it rotates in. So, like upstairs in our office, we don't have backs on any of them because the wall is acting as the back. Where if you had this as a countered space, you wouldn't want them to see it
Yeah, it's not
flip.
gonna be through, okay.
Yeah, so it just
No, I think
basically,
it needs to have a back on it, the one that sits out.
But is this one or two sides? Well, no, okay, I see what
Just-
you're saying, when you close it, the closed side is, I got you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then this bid is for a tall ×2, which, it's the same bid that you had that I showed you last week. He just included, so that you could kind of see the pricing. On the back side of it is the state. The first one is the federal government plan, so if we purchase these off of the federal program, and then the back page is the state. Because they kind of wanted some bids to see whether or not he was being competitive. So he went out and grabbed the market prices of what they would cost on those contracts. And, no, these are just,
Okay.
so that way you could kind of see the pricing. There is not another distributor in the state of Kansas that sells these. If you go upstairs and see Rhonda's, you can kind of tell the difference right away between the workmanship of them. But that dealer is no longer in the state of Kansas either. So I thought, well, if we got at least the government pricing, then you could kind of see, you know, are they being competitive and comparable? And he can purchase through the government contracts as well. The only thing he said is it's a lot of paperwork, so he tends just to go ahead and knock off the price and be done with it. So then he doesn't have to do the paperwork. So it's kind of the gist. But those are for you, and that is all for me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a couple things that I need to discuss with the board. First off, I have received the information from Ms. Bishop on our proposed tax sale. So I have prepared a resolution for your review for me to initiate the proceedings, as I would like to get that filed this year. Here is a proposed resolution that I worked on this weekend. Dawn, I'll hand you a copy. And I do have that, obviously, on Microsoft Word if we need to make any changes to that. Some of you are familiar with the tax sales, some of you aren't. Obviously, this is a pretty tedious and long process to deal with the tax sale. It averages about sometimes 8 months, 9 months or more, depending on what we kind of get into with it. I have the list of the properties. We are still making our way through that. We've prepared the letter that we're going to be sending out to everyone that gives them a time period in order to pay. Once I file, obviously I'm going to be asking for the taxes to be paid in full, so hopefully we can kind of get this moving along. If not, I'll foreclose and we'll proceed with the sale.
I have a couple questions on that process. We were confused. So, I'll just say my understanding and then you can correct me. My understanding is you take bids. If they do not meet the minimum of what's due to us, then we can reject them. But in the meantime, if that happens, then we, at the end of the sale, we actually absorb the property, so it becomes county-owned property at that time?
Yes. I have looked into, and I think you guys have heard these words from me before, land bank. I've looked into trying to do a land bank for us, which would maybe deal with the properties that we kind of have a tendency to get back and continue to roll over to person to person to person. They not necessarily fixed up. I think that there has to be a significant amount of money that the county kind of puts into in order to maintain those and do those. Wyandotte has one.
What is the function of it?
It allows us to kind of take that property and sell those properties and fix up those properties, or make sure that whoever gets them is a person who's going to deal with them appropriately in the best interest of the county. In that you want a piece of property that you're going to be able to
Has value, increases
Yeah.
value.
and that's a lot of some of the issues we have. You know, we've got some nice houses and we got some not so nice houses. If you look down our main street, it's kind of the same kind of premise. You have vacancies and things like that. Kelly and I have talked about that. It's something we're still looking into. I don't know if it's feasible for us to do that at this point. I think it involves the city a little bit more than the county, and that's not something that I think that they can just kind of pull together. So I think we are what we are. Now, I'm constantly reviewing things in order to maximize what I can for our county, and doing it in a way that I'm hoping at the end of it, we will be able to have properties go to where they need to be. We can get some tax money, so we can deal with stuff, but I don't know.
I have one more clarification.
Mhm.
So if the tax sale is in progress and someone is not either paying by that date the full amount in arrears or bidding on that date the full amount in arrears, there's no option to pay back like a retroactive payment from the 3 years prior in order to keep it. It's basically still in tax claim, but it won't become county property. It's going to become county property at that time if it's on that list for the tax sale, correct?
Not necessarily.
How does
I
that
mean,
work?
well, there's a redemption period throughout that. So once I file on it, they have periods of time where they can redeem, but they're going to have to pay a significant amount of money to do that.
But that's before the actual date of the sale.
Right.
Okay, so
But once the
anything
sale,
happening the date of the sale or after, we basically absorb the responsibility of each of those properties.
yes.
Do you have any stats on how many properties or what the total amount would be, or what the cost is going to be for the county to do all the publications and that kind of?
I don't have any of that stuff yet.
Okay,
We're just working through. I mean, you can kind of see where we're at.
yeah.
That's the amount. I haven't made my way through that yet. I mean, I haven't.
No, I understand.
It's a
Do
very
you do
significant
all
and
of
lengthy
that,
process.
Or does the treasurer help with that together?
That's on me. So I'll do all that. So,
Lincoln County is a lot different than Shawnee County. I can tell you from 20-some years in construction business here, I rehabbed a few properties, and I utilized my help when we were between jobs. I never came out of it, absorbing the cost myself and doing the work myself. So I don't think there's any way that this county could ever rehab a property.
no, and I'm not saying, and I apologize, Terry, if I said that improperly. I don't want us to get in the business of nails and screws. I think the problem is we have people who are not from here, who aren't necessarily call me and want to know where their tax sales, and they come and want to bid $1 and get a piece of property that languishes for 4 years, and then I have to start the process over again. And in the interim, it kind of gets worse. So, I don't know how to combat that. You know what I mean? I think it is what it is. So, I mean, my goal is to accrue and to get as many tax dollars as I can for this county through this, and to get that from people who haven't paid. But there's always going to be some of those properties that are just going to go, and we're probably going to deal with them again in another couple years.
Do we have a state mandated time frame for the preparation and the sale and all that?
No. I mean, there's statutory guidance, but I mean, it just depends
Maybe
on how
we
it
don't
goes.
have it a certain
I don't know
time
how
of
it's going to
year
go.
or-
I don't know whether there's going to be mortgages I'm going to have to deal with. I don't know if people are going to contest it. I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to go. It's actual litigation, so we'll just see how it works. Usually in the past, it's gone relatively smoothly, but there's always something sometimes that pops up that we're going to have to deal with. Leanna's done her job by getting everything to me, and, I will work closely with her, and, and I always work with Miss Harlow too during these time periods, so we can kind of get it to where it needs to be. But I would anticipate us not being able to have a tax sale until probably the end of the summer, fall is where I think it'll probably hit. So,
19.
yeah. But that's okay. I'd like to get it started now, so, like I said, there's a lot of letters that need to go out, and then there's a lot of communication that needs to occur because of people are wanting to redeem, and sometimes that happens. I mean, I think we have a lot of people that come in and want to pay it, so I don't anticipate all of these are going
Right.
to go.
But I don't know what it's going to cost us to actually go through the procedure, but it's a win-win for the county because we're either going to get that money if someone wants to redeem their property.
Right.
Or eventually, I know you said we're gonna have problems with the same turnover in certain places, but how long has it been since we did a tax sale?
It's been a while because there's been enough that redeemed that it hasn't really made sense. I do think the last time I did one, if I remember right, there might have been about $5,000 or $6,000 worth of expenses, if I remember right. That was apportioned out. How that works is that is just fed into the people that own the taxes. That's not something that we pay. I don't get money to do a tax sale. I am not paid any separate amount of money whatsoever to pay a tax sale, to do a tax sale. That falls underneath, in my opinion, my county attorney duties as well as my county counselor. So, it is a win-win for us to proceed on this, so.
But you say it falls on the person, but if the house doesn't sell, property doesn't sell, you can't go back and
Right,
collect on
I
the
try to
person.
recoup as much as I can as we go along.
But those expenses for publishing, advertising, et cetera, does that get added to each individual's
The
price?
land. Yeah, the land.
Okay.
But it doesn't. If you don't collect enough money from the sale to pay the expenses, you can't go back after the person for the expenses.
No, we absorb the property at that
Yeah.
point, that's, yeah.
But we've always kept it very economical. I mean, I know other counties that, pay attorneys and other people to do these and that could go up to $10,000 to $15,000. So for us, I mean, it's kind of a boom. Let's just proceed with it and see where we're at, and I'll come back in and let you guys know. So you guys can just kind of see what hasn't been redeemed or what hasn't been paid, and we'll know closer to it how many tracks are gonna have to go. And then we'll set that up. And Sheriff Weigel obviously will be involved in that. And then we prepare all of the documents and do all of those things, so.
How do they do the bidding process? Do you actually auction or?
Yeah, Sheriff Weigel usually did it.
Okay.
And, well, he hasn't done one,
But
but.
the sheriff,
Yeah, the sheriff does them. We stand on the courthouse steps,
Okay.
and then we just kind of go through the tracks. We have a list, so. But yeah, I just want to let you guys know that will be starting. So if you receive any calls, you can direct them to my office. I will take care of them as best I can.
I'd move we adopt resolution 2018-18, commencing the collection of past due property taxes.
Thank you.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there an original to sign, or do we just sign these?
I have an original here.
How many do you need signed?
Two.
Two?
I'm assuming she needs an original.
Yeah, they're all the same, so you just want to. Thank you.
Sorry. Do you have a copy, Dawn?
Yes.
Or do you?
If you have two copies, I'll have to stamp both of those. And then I'll get you one.
Here you go. I also had gotten bids. I gave Dawn a copy of that from Dave in reference to the office up here with the move to the courthouse. I wanted you all to have a copy of that. Dave is not in the office this week. However, he is available if the commissioners would like to speak to him on Monday. He had prepared a possible bid for me for the office furniture of, I think it will be the jury room is where I will be at. I had kind of changed that up a little bit. He does have a desk that somebody had given back and they didn't want, so I was able to get that at a reduced amount. There would be two, in the original bid that he gave me, was higher than this, so I worked to kind of get it down. So this will be the desk, this will be a counter with storage, and then two filing cabinets.
This first bid, or is this?
There's one for $6,000, and that
That's the filing cabinet.
yeah, if you look farther, you can kind of see, I had him put the layout so you guys could see that, what it is,
And is this,
like this one.
is this for the old county attorney office?
No, this is for the new
Jury
one.
room. I mean, I'm saying jury room or office?
Jury room.
Okay.
This would be where people would go
Okay.
for assistance. When you walk in the door to the left, there will be two filing cabinets.
Oh, I see this, yeah.
Yes, and the register kind of complicated things a little bit. So what we've done is we put the desk back towards the window, so it's kind of a free flowing back there. I'll have my copier and everything back there. I did want a counter, which would allow storage and other things, so yes. It'll have like it'll go like about 72 inches out, so when people walk in, they're just not walking into it. I would like some kind of space to create that. I didn't want to spend tons of money on filing cabinets, because I'm hoping next year, once we get into that budget, that I could look at the case management software. They are changing everything upstairs from full court, so I haven't done anything with that yet because I didn't want to get into a system that wasn't going to be compatible with what they were using, so I felt like that was a waste of money, so I've just kind of held off. So we are in the process of kind of purging our files, going through things, getting done what we need to do, packaging up, but I think this will be sufficient for us and will allow us to have everything. Plus, when you go into that storage room right there, I believe when you turn right and back is where we have kind of, we will want our excess storage to be in files.
Behind the doorway.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
there's a clove there that I think we can kind of deal with. I think there's enough shelves and things up there that if we need to, we can kind of move things around. I think that will allow us to kind of have our surplus there. So I think it'll be a nice, clean space with not a lot of stuff sitting around, but it allows us to do what we need to do. I may have to get a couple chairs just for people when they come in, but I do think that this will meet our needs. For the other office, I don't know what's going on with everything, but I don't anticipate having to have all of this for that, because I will have a laptop, because I will be moving back and forth between the one office to the other. So I wanted a table, I wanted some conference room or something, because that's when law enforcement comes. So like I said, if you approve this bid, that's fine. If you want to talk to Dave, that's fine. I don't think that we're going to get any better than this out there, in my opinion. I had him include all that he could as to the state and local government pricing. I think this is really good things. I think this is a one-time purchase. I don't anticipate anybody having to make this purchase again for a significant period of time, just because I think it will be sufficient. And what I've seen from Dawn's office equipment in her office, I've been able to look at that. I think it's absolutely appropriate for what we're trying to do here. It'll allow the computer. I did request that there be an extension off of the desk for the computer. I need to kind of block what people see when they come in. So I'm trying to kind of deal with the privacy issues of that information as well. But I think we've accomplished this, and I think it's a good bid. So.
Do we have any furniture that was purchased when you moved onto Main Street? Do we have any furniture that was purchased then out of your budget?
The agreement at that point was that I was to furnish it all, so I did it all.
Okay.
So
do you think it would be fair to say that as we amended the resolution for the, what is it called? The capital improvement plan, thank you. And so if we make this purchase out of there, do you think that your budget could handle if you need an additional purchase for your small office, the conference room?
I believe I wanted the conference table from the old commissioner's room already.
We had already kind of mentioned that.
And I have some, I have
great.
some things that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that I could get those things. I don't anticipate really buying anything for that office. I feel like the one office needs to be furnished appropriately, and the other we can kind of deal with what we want to. I just want the commission to be aware of that with that commission table in there, I would like 4 chairs with it, because when I have to meet with Mike and Dustin and law enforcement and witnesses and stuff, so if there's 4 chairs available with that table, I would like them, because I don't want to have to be purchasing things.
Can we just move the commission chairs too?
I don't know if anybody else wants them, but if somebody else wants them, just know that we need to figure out the 4 chairs.
I'm getting used to this.
3 of them are gone. Oh, you want the 4 rolling chairs?
Yeah.
That are not really great, but.
Well, I don't. The issue is I have about $41,000 left in my budget this year. I've been very frugal this year, anticipating that this were to happen. But I don't know how that will work with everything. So I mean, if we need to push it into next year, obviously, I mean, I anticipate and would like to be up there in December because that is a lull in the case time. So, I mean, this isn't just me picking up some boxes and moving. This is a very significant and extensive process. I need to talk to Next Tech. Dawn has been amazing to work with because we're trying to kind of figure out what protection that I need, how I'm going to do this. We're still trying to figure out servers and everything as to how this is going to work for us. I'm doing a case management software demo next week to kind of see what that means from Carpal. Whether that's going to be extensive or not, I don't know. So you're just going to have to bear with me a little bit because I'm probably going to be in here asking for things or just kind of informing you. But at this point, if we don't make a decision on these before October 1, it's going to raise, I think, like $800 because of the tariff issues with the freight and the steel that are going into these. So I've got it down as low as I could possibly go with as least as I possibly need at this point. But I think that we need to move forward with that in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, tell me which one of these are all three of these you want, or just two of these, or what?
There's office furniture and speed files. There's two.
The first two.
The first two, what's these next ones? That are 6,800 and 6,700?
Oh, that's not all of it.
That's just the material list off the bid, isn't it?
Yeah. So it would be, the first one would be the $6,718, and that'll have all of the filing cabinets that I need. Up there, two big ones. There's 4 up there now. I'll have 2 big ones. And the second one is the office furniture, which I got that desk for a steal because it was a return, the $26.55. And then that also includes the double storage plus the counter, which I would like, because I think there needs to be a
That's
counter.
Oh,
That's the
I
same
definitely
counter
think
we
there
talked
needs to
about
be
the
something to separate you.
filing
Yeah.
underneath. And then-
No, she wasn't gonna go with the times 2 underneath.
Okay.
That's where I'll put all my office supplies and everything else, so I'm not having to buy anymore. I think that the filing that we have up there with the 2 is gonna be sufficient once we purge our files and kind of put what we need to be in storage.
Did they find a place for the district court pieces? I mean, I know we talked about purchasing the end caps so they can be separated. Do you think they found a place for all 5 of them, or 6 of those, or whatever?
They do, and she has bids for the end caps and the labor to move them. The next question is going to be, where does David go?
Okay.
Well, Judge Cudney's coming in.
Yes, I think what they're gonna do is put 2 units on one wall in David's office now, 2 units on the other wall, and Jennifer's will need to bring up the conference table, and that room will be finished.
So you won't have any files stored in the small office?
No, I'm gonna keep mine separate, so they're underneath lock and key in the other.
Yeah.
But the district courts will be in my old office, which is David's office. I've talked to them about it. I have no problem with that, if you guys are okay with it.
The jury room down.
Yeah, I have no
Yeah.
problem. They will have a key to that office so they can access it whenever they need to, otherwise it will be locked. And I think as much as we work with district court, we can work through that. It's not a problem. I anticipate no issues. So, same files that I use. So, but with that, I think at this point we need to talk about my staff and what's gonna happen with that. I do have a letter that I prepared for you that I would like to add staff as of October 1. I would like to add 1 full-time person. I think that based on the extent of this move and what this is going to entail, I would like to be able to have staff in place now helping with this. I'm looking to transition my office so that that person will not be doing anything. If we can get that person up here quicker, that's fine. I think that's gonna involve what you are doing with the jury room and how we're gonna be doing this. I do have a jury trial that's scheduled in mid-October that I'm gonna have to be dealing with, but otherwise I don't anticipate at this point any additional ones. However, that could change on a daily basis.
You're saying are you saying changing your part-time to full-time, or you're saying adding full-time to your part-time?
I'm adding my 1 full-time employee.
On top of 1 part-time?
I will be transitioning Miss Good is who I would like to have be.
But I'm saying, let's go to next year's budget.
Yeah,
What you're saying is.
we
out
just
of
have
your
1
budget-
full-time.
Right, okay.
Yeah, when I did my budget, I gave myself a little additional money to kind of take up the fact that I was going to be dropping off part-time because I would like to go a year to see how we could do this. Obviously, there were some cuts in the budget, so that will fall to me to deal with, not necessarily my staff. I believe that Ms. Good is the most appropriate person. She's been doing this job for 15 years. She has never received any of the benefits associated with being a county employee in any way, shape, or form. However, she is very... I don't know how to do this job without her, and I would hate to lose her with that because we've been doing this for so long, and I think we've been doing very, very good at it. I've looked at kind of other wages and such. I know when I put in my budget, I put it for 15. I've knocked that down. I requested to be 14. But I think that if we're going to make this move happen in December, she needs to be on in October because we're going to be moving.
How does this work with October, November, and December in your current budget? You said you had 40-some thousand, or how
I think it's going to be tight. It depends on whether or not equipment's going to be coming out of mine or it's going to be capital outlay.
What equipment?
Like the equipment that we just talked
I think
about.
we've established
Okay.
that that's gonna be coming out of the capital improvement thing.
Okay.
So, you feel that if you transition her to full-time, you can maintain the rest of your budget through the end of
Yes.
the year, and then we've already pre-planned to have one full-time person for you in the courthouse when
Yes.
you are up here next year.
Yes.
I move to approve,
And just so you know, that's going to change any reimbursement that I'd received. The way that it works is I put out the money and then I'm reimbursed a certain amount of money. So I believe in October I'll get some money, but that's going to change. It's going to dramatically. I mean, if we can get her up here as quickly as possible, I'm not wanting money. You know, I want that money, as I said in my budget, to transition to my employee is what it will be. So we can talk about that later. You know, I mean, there's just a little rent, there's some expenses and things. I can itemize that out if I need to, but I mean, we're just transitioning the money that we've already accounted for, and so that portion will go to her, and then we can talk about how that is. But I'm hoping to have them up here in December. So I think it's gonna be good. I'm excited.
I move to approve county attorney's request to employ one full-time staff beginning October 1st, 2018,
Wage,
at $14 an hour.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Are we is this employed, since it's a new employee, are we going to do the 6-month, 1-year raises?
I would say it's basically standard practice.
I think that would depend on what's in the budget, what Jennifer decides to do with her budget for her employees. So if you come to us with that request and it's in your budget, I would say yes.
We've already
She
approved the
budgeted-
budget.
She budgeted 15.
We budgeted for 15,
So,
but I'm starting below her because I just want to be as in conformity as I can based on the needs. This isn't somebody that just answers the
I think
phone.
we just need to establish that this is a new employee and that we are going to honor our traditional 6-month, 1-year anniversaries, because they will happen in 19.
still put it below the 15.
Well, and a
Yeah.
clarification is that when it's an elected official's choice to employ, there is no nepotism rule that the commission can impose on that hire. So just clarification there.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, what about this furniture one you did before the first? Do we want to talk to Judge Cudney first and see what she's thinking?
I guess my feeling is that, yeah, we want to talk to her, and then I also think that if we're going to do it, we might as well do all of it at once.
Do you have some thoughts on, even if it were temporary for 6 months or whatever, about the jury having to meet down here? You know, what we were told from district court is that they are released to go use the restroom, et cetera, at other facilities. Okay, so obviously they come down here They go down 2 floors, they go all the way back up 2 floors, and then they can conference in that room. And they didn't, some of the discussion was, they didn't approve of them walking back through the courtroom, obviously, when they're in recess, when the jury's in recess. So, one of the opposing views of them just staying here, if they come all the way to the basement and then staying here, is that no one would be here. But I was under the impression that we have 2 employees in that office, one full-time, one part-time. I guess I'm asking, do we have enough jury trials where we would be concerned about having that second person scheduled during the jury to be able to assist with overseeing the jury conferencing if they were to stay down here? As
Right.
opposed to doing renovation now, this year, or like you said, if changes are coming that we need to look at in the future, maybe we could be better prepared to make a big change rather than try to just kind of put something together in a hurry
Right.
with a construction project.
Well, and I think you've nailed it there to me. I think as long as things are in transition to be something else, I think it's fine. One thing that I mentioned to Dawn was, my old office, if we needed to use that temporarily, it's too small to an extent, but if we need to use that temporarily, I believe that there's also trials scheduled in January of this year that also are gonna have to use a jury. So, I mean, we're talking enough that it's gonna be an issue. I just don't know how to deal with it. Like, I get it.
I know
I
we
just
want a
think
big
Judge
enough
Cudney is
space.
gonna have to really talk to you guys about that, because I know what she,
Doesn't matter.
okay, good.
Okay.
What about our letter for Grace team?
Yes, I have that at my office, so
Okay.
I will get that back up to you.
All right.
Sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, I'll go
Okay.
make that. I've gotta go up and do, a hearing
fine.
at 10:30, but I'll make it happen.
Okay,
We
thank you.
also wanted, I'm sorry, 1 second. We
And I
also-
may just work with Dawn upstairs. I'll have Katie send it up and just put it on your guys' letterhead. So, yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. I had too much scheduled this morning.
We also wanted to create our own mill levy regulations for publicly voted in mills, and I know you haven't gotten to that yet. I
Right.
just wanted to bring that up and say
Yes.
it might be appropriate before the end of the year,
Yeah.
if that's on your agenda, to kind of
I can make that
clarify
happen.
and then we can create something.
Yeah, I can make that happen.
Okay.
I do know with the nursing home issue, one of the things that I think has been brought up, well, I guess for me that I've noticed is, I think in dealing with kind of this issue, there's a lot of terms of art in the way that things are described or done, which I think are kind of complicating for all of us that don't necessarily work in that. I do think at some point I may be requesting permission from this board to seek some counsel from someone who does this all the time.
Yes.
I mean, I am all for saving the county money.
But I think we need some corporate law input, because
But
we are
yeah,
dealing with.
I can, to me, the issue is not necessarily the structure, but it is the terms that you need to use in it to make sure that we are not having something negative down the road with us. And I think in our committee, we have figured that out, that there are terms that are used that we think mean something else, but the healthcare industry knows it to be different. And I think that's an issue for us. So I would like to be a little preemptive, so just know that I may be coming back to you. Steve Granzow and I are gonna have a meeting this week, and I'll see what I can get figured out, but I would like, we're gonna have to pay somebody, but I would like a little bit of assistance on that, okay?
That's understandable.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are up, I guess. We'll see Judge Cudney's coming in. If she's got a tight schedule, we may have to fit her in here, but I think she has court here.
She in at 9:30? She's in at 9:30?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll try to power through this, I guess we can. Probably work better for
She
my
may not
schedule.
be tight on her schedule, I don't know, but I'm assuming she has court, she's gonna be.
Well, get started here. Chip seal, we have it completed for this year. I guess we lacked just a little bit of getting South Street completely done, but I didn't feel it necessary to go and get 100 gallons of oil to get that finished. It'll be fine.
That's good to me.
Everything went fairly smooth, hit the rain in the middle of it, which was kind of a hang up for us, but I was able to shift some people around, able to get all the blade guys out doing their job, so I didn't have to pull any of them there. Just got word Thursday that our OS 87 Goldenrod Bridge, L&M contractors got that. They are looking to start construction mid-October, or it's going to fit in their schedules. So we're trying to get the ball rolling on that. Hopefully get a pre-conference set up next week with KDOT and the engineer and the contractor. Hopefully we can get to moving on that. Donna gave me a communication through you guys from Mary Powell considering a couple issues, and I put a letter together for each of you. And basically what it says on the 911 signs, I've ordered a sign for the 181 junction already. And then the other signs that she requested, I think it'd probably be best for us to just wait to do them, and we're systematically doing all the others.
Where are we in that project? Not the state project, but we had talked about doing our own intersection on the county lines for the main throughways.
Yes, this year we did both, or two state highways. We did 14 and 18 in this year.
That was not part of the state project.
No, those were on
That was our
ours.
road signs for
Yes,
the county roads.
the
Okay.
911.
14 and 18.
14 and 18 we did
Mhm.
911 signs.
Mhm.
And this
Is
next,
this the, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is this the same sign that you purchased when you did that little section out on the lake hillside?
yes,
Same type of sign?
Yes.
Okay.
and they're up on 14 and 18 already, and that at the lake. This next year I plan on doing our other state highways and hopefully roll into additional, some FAS routes at that point. And we got 284 at Barnard that'll need taken care of. We'll have 181 that needs taken care of. And, you know, hopefully get those two and maybe one other short one done next year with the 2019 budget. With OS 117, which is north of Union Drive, she had a concern with stuff there, and it goes in there to explain the reason why those stones keep getting knocked off and why putting them back up on there is not going to do us any good. Those wide loads, their travel wheels drive over the top of them, and they're going to continue to do it. With RS 190, which is east of 80th of Ash, or east of Ash Grove. It's a double span, stone masonry arch bridge. At that location, there's maintenance that can be done. This maintenance would include realigning the channel north of the bridge, clearing the west barrel of the arch, and possibly a tuck point. This project will be a rather large project for our crew and the equipment that we currently have. The project will need to be appropriately permitted since work will be conducted within the channel. If the debris within the channel is removed only without realigning the channel, sediment will continue to accumulate in the west barrel over time. So we'd like to clean the barrel and realign the channel at the same time. Going to be a large project. Both those bridges, Bob, Tanner, and I, we've all went and looked at them, and we've determined that the requested work at those two locations is not a priority for immediate attention. And with the current workload and other urgent repairs that may present themselves, it could easily be several years until we're able to address those.
My question on that is last year we had talked about you getting bids for at least one
Tuck.
area of tuck pointing
Yes.
some of those stone arch bridges, because the reality is the deterioration is costly in an exponential way. So where are we in that process?
Honestly, I have not had time to get those bids put out.
Do you have at least the bridges located? Do you have locations that you could?
There are several, yes. I do not have it nailed down to which one, no.
Okay.
Talking about tuck pointing, I know those two locations that we looked at, the RS 190 and Office 17, those are eligible for historical significance. So I know we did a project in Barton County, and all the grout for the tuck porting had to meet the historical significance requirements. So I don't, we probably need to maybe look into that.
I think we've always used that historical mix, I
Okay.
Say that again.
We used a mix designed by John Cachette. I believe it may be.
Met there.
I mean, are you
I
talking
think.
about,
I think it's
Confirm.
the state historical, I really have to.
are you talking about receiving money under the eligibility that it's historical? Does it-
It'd be anything, so if you're altering the bridge, doing any work to it, it would need to meet the historical
With or without
specs.
funds.
If,
With or,
if it was registered?
yes.
Right,
And these
so-
are eligible for registry.
And does that enable us to receive grant money for that purpose?
As far as I know, I'm not aware that there are.
I have tried before to get some money from the Historical Society on a bridge, and they basically have told me every time there's no money, that they do not have the money to put towards it. I know especially what we call the Beano Bridge up north of Barnard. You know, I worked a long time with them trying to get some money, and there's just nothing there.
Finally closed it. didn't it?
Yes.
It's closed.
That's correct.
Is it on the historical places?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it
so-
is,
That's-
that's the problem,
The reason why it's
till there.
still there.
My other concern is we were approached about a cost increase for gravel. With the budget that we approved, that we talked about, what, a 50-cent increase? So that's again, not only is it half of what last year's quantity was in purchase price, but it will be then again reduced by 50% if that goes through. So looking at that, I'm just a little hesitant on wondering what, do you understand where I'm going with that? Saying if we can only purchase basically 25% of what we were purchasing with the prior budgets, it's a concern to me.
Money.
It's gonna be one of those things where, you know, it's a line item, but we can pull from other places. You know, so we might have to short ourselves in culverts or something else to be able to get done.
I think that should be discussed, you know, pretty thoroughly before you make some purchases, either from APAC again, or however that goes
And
through.
we're gonna have to, we still have some stored on our lot, but we have a few places that we're gonna have to haul some of that quartzite material to get us through here.
Okay.
Like I've said, I'm trying to locate some other pits, but some of the quality of our gravel has fallen off. And the demands of the citizens has become a little greater than what it used to be. The roads are being used more frequently when they are wet, and all of that plays into a factor. You know, I don't know yet what the best answer is to be able to provide the road that the public is requesting at this time. You know, I know I've had a lot of requests from the public just to quit buying gravel from the farmer and use strictly rock out of the quartzite quarry. I personally am not in favor of that for several reasons. One is the cost, and two is going to be the wear and tear and chatter on the tires and everything else. It's just not, it's going to blow off the road easier. There's no
Nothing to
binder in
bind
it.
Yeah, there's no
You know,
binder.
So I'm still between a rock and a hard place there of finding exactly what the best way to do it is.
I think we should just continue that discussion though before you have to make a budget decision, is what I'm saying, for purchasing material. And then I had another question about Bridge 67, the last project that all of you worked on. How do you feel that went? That's the Bridge 67 that comes from the dam, that first. How do you feel that turned out? Have you been out there to look at it again? Could you all of you have been there or been in charge of some portion of that project? Could you give me some feedback on that?
From what I've seen, I'm satisfied with it.
I was satisfied with the way it got turned out.
Has there been negative feedback or?
Tanner, I mean, I know you had a lot to
To
do
the,
with
yeah, I
some
was
of
out
that.
there, you guys had installed the piling on one side, and then you guys, and we went out there, and then you guys were gonna install it on the other side also. Yeah, but.
But everybody feels that it looks good and it was done well and it's settled,
know,
that
the-
issue is settled.
Aesthetically, you know, there's that old sheet piling underneath there that's torn. You know, you don't want to go in there with a torch and start cutting on it.
No, but you reset in front of it,
Yeah.
And, well, behind it.
or,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
behind it.
it can be set in a position where it's not necessarily seen.
Okay. And we had talked about using riprap on what I would call the shoulders of the sides because of the flow, the current and things like that. And it was a unanimous decision here that that wasn't gonna be necessary.
Within our right of way, I think there's enough material and riprap already there.
Okay. Has anyone looked at it? Or, no?
Yeah, like I
You
say,
have-
I don't know when you're talking, but yeah.
Just recently,
A
after
couple
the
different
project
times
was
since
finished?
since we've been done. yeah.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, had anyone instructed the grader to remove the leftover dirt and mud that had piled up on top of the actual bridge? Because there was quite a bit left over just from doing the work. I mean, I know you track it on, but it was never really removed. Has there been
Well, it was
instructions for?
supposed to be,
Supposed to
there
be a
was-
little bit of cover over that bridge.
Well, there's enough that it's flowing over the edges, so I wouldn't call that a little bit, but,
Part of that was due to on the end where they fastened the sheeting in there, they had some bolt heads that were sticking up and they covered them up so they wouldn't puncture a tire or something. And we had some ordered and they kind of covered them up until they got the new bolts and put them in. And then he was supposed to clean that off there, that
Okay.
excess.
But it will have some material over the top of that bridge. It will not be a concrete exposed deck.
well, I have a consensus from all of you that you're satisfied, and I'd just like to show you a few pictures that I took when I went out there and looked at the project as it was finished. And you had all advised that you didn't believe that any riprap was necessary, and I had expressed my concern about what would happen to the shoulders and the material that's already there, that we all, contributed to the project money-wise or work-wise. And this is the first picture of several, and I think you can see that the deterioration is already happening. This is a rather large portion of dirt. Commissioners, can you see that? There's a large chunk there that's already kind of falling into the waterway.
Is that on the west side? South?
That will be the southwest corner.
Southwest corner.
That's a further back. You can see it's a good quarter section of the dirt that's already been placed that's now caving in and going to then settle.
As you'll see, there's a large piece of riprap that was underneath that.
And there's the other side, same exact problem that we're seeing. So basically, your foundation underneath is starting to give already, and that's going to wash then and silt. And we've already talked about the problem of the flow and the current and how that's changing kind of the hillside pattern there on either side of the bridge, really. And there's another one where you can see it's pulling away, all the dirt is pulling away. And there's the other side, same thing, only this crack is going clear up to the actual surface level of the bridge. Can you see that one? That's kind of falling apart. Mr. Wallace, you have no concern, or?
But I think what I've tried to tell you is the riprap is underneath that dirt.
It was
Yeah, it's
existing.
not the riprap that's giving out underneath, it's doing that, it's just
We talked
rain
about
and
packing
moisture,
this.
it's eroding it that.
Can you see the pictures? Or-
Yeah, kind of off,
Yeah, I'll be glad to, I'll forward this
but
set, and there's a little closer view of where that's all breaking off. I would just say that my concern is that this group has said that the project is satisfactory, and I think the pictures depict another story. I'll send this to you in an email.
It's fine. Yes, my question to the board is, if us three are satisfied with that project and you all would like us to put riprap in it, please advise me, and we will go do what the board requests.
I think that would be necessary. You can see where the deterioration is already happening. The work that was already done is being undone by the flow of the river.
Is the riprap under the dirt?
yeah. It's just
From when
what
it was
dirt,
originally
what dirt
constructed.
they dug out to get the
That's what's
sheeting.
happening.
But there's riprap underneath it.
That was extra dirt that was put over in anticipation that it would hopefully get sodded over prior to any high water.
Well,
But as
some
we
of
know,
that
that
that's
did not
falling
happen.
is at least 24 inches thick, so you're saying that.
Probably.
Yeah.
If there's riprap underneath that dirt, then that's sufficient.
Where you put that dirt though, if it's at least 24 to 36 inches deep, that dirt, you brought it out to the actual bank line, the shoreline that follows the rest of it, which looks great. But now what you're saying is you're okay with it deteriorating all the way back to the riprap, which then creates that pool of water that flows against the rock that you're calling riprap, which is beyond the actual bank line and the flow of the river. So then we have that same issue again, where we have this deterioration happening in a circular motion on on all four corners of the bridge. So the riprap being out a certain amount and then dirt on top of it, what is the purpose of that dirt then? If you're going to allow it to flow away like it is, what is the purpose of the dirt?
Like I said, it was in anticipation that it would sod over. And sod is a pretty good deterrent for erosion.
Did you seed it? It's seeded?
No,
How do you get sod without seed?
it naturally comes back. And it usually does
Seeds
within
in
a
the dirt.
year. But, like I said, if the board would like me to do it, we will do it.
I would like that to be taken care of. I think that if you're satisfied with that particular project, there's a discrepancy between my level of satisfaction and your level of satisfaction. And you just mentioned that the public has indicated to you their level of satisfaction on certain things. I think this is a prime example of our differences in satisfaction level with workmanship and completion of projects.
If there's riprap under the dirt, I was saying you need to add more riprap.
It's stayed there ever since we built the bridge.
It'll settle in
back in the
again, and then you
70s.
can go out there and put some more riprap over the top of it. We need to move on. You got anything else? Judge Cudney's patiently waiting.
No, the only other thing I had was, as you guys can tell, Bob is back. I guess if you guys want to make a decision on Johnny's position that he was in, we could probably do that today, because Bob's back for full time. But I would like the board to consider looking at a position with someone like Mr. Wolting, that we can have a working foreman, and we have somebody that has the time to work full-time as a working foreman and help some of the blade guys or gravel guys or whoever it may be get some projects completed, and not only get them completed, get some education along the way that Bob and I just do not have that time to do.
Can we utilize him, continue to utilize him for a little bit, or we got some projects we can catch up on?
For a little bit, yes,
I
but
think-
for full-time, the way it's set up, I think it would be not a good idea. There's no way he's gonna keep up with everything.
Well, I mean, can we just keep going for a little bit here if we can get some projects caught up?
I think we had approved through what, October 1st?
October 1st, yes.
Do you want to leave it until then and rediscuss it that day?
If you
Could
all
we
are
do
fine
that?
with that, I am fine
I'm
with that.
okay with it.
Yeah.
Kinda help get caught up a little bit on some stuff.
Who is doing his route, or how is that getting covered?
He's been working on it.
Does he feel that it's too far behind, or has he expressed anything about that?
He spends a lot of time working on his route, yes. And no, he is not caught up by any means. So, other than that, that's all I have for today. You guys, I guess we're gonna go down and do some more looking at the health department. We're gonna have to
Drainage.
shoot some elevations and try to do some stuff. It's a very complicated location.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Do you guys have anything to add?
I really don't have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. Okay, we're ready for the district court, I guess. You guys want to come up a little closer?
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
Hello.
Judge.
Let's see. I know two of you we haven't met. Alexis, Kim Cudney. I brought Judge Graves and Taylor along,
Morning.
and if
Morning.
Jennifer wants to jump in, great. I just thought we should touch base if we're doing renovations upstairs or not doing renovations. Can you tell me where you guys are at?
We're kind of looking at, kind of long-range goal of utilizing the jury room and the corner room for the county attorney. The corner room could be a multi-purpose room, but the jury room, we're looking at moving her main office into there. The question comes, what do we do with the jury? You know, we've looked at several different things, some of which don't sound like they're workable. You know, if we had a jury trial every week, it would probably, but, you know, one question we had was the possibility of using this room as a jury room. You know, we're talking 3 or 4 days a year, maybe 5 or 6. You know, the other option was to go in behind the courtroom into that storage area, but I'm told that is a bit of an issue because the fact that there will be things happening in the courtroom that the jury can't partake in.
I would guess expense is probably an issue upstairs, but, so that might be some, I mean, because I think we could build it appropriate. I really would nix the jury being down here. When we have a jury trial, you know, I do everything I can to keep them isolated so they don't see witnesses or anybody say anything to them or talk to them. And my authority really is over the court. Then putting them down here, I think just makes a big issue. I don't like that idea because I just don't think we keep them secure, protected. I would, and then are we gonna have security down here? And I get
I had a couple
complicated.
of thoughts on that, because I was thinking about that scenario. It was brought up from the clerk, and I was thinking, well, if I was in the jury and they released me for recess, the only bathroom is here. It's right next door to this room. So really, there's a lot of time to be approached on your way down the steps for, you know, several flights, here in the hallway, which is rather private, in the bathroom, of course, and then you make that same trek all the way upstairs. So I thought, wouldn't it be more secure that they use the bathroom next door and they immediately have nowhere to go other than into this room? There'd actually be less interaction with the public. I mean, the main hall is that first floor next to the, you know, clerk and appraiser and treasurer's office and that people, and provide a medium for a lot of interaction that you may want to discourage. And this room is right next to the bathroom, and I'm just assuming that when you ask them to resume into session, you would want them all to go together. And we had talked about if that was an option. One of the discrepancies was, well, someone from the clerk's office, the district court clerk's office, would need to be in the office, so they wouldn't be able to be down here. But we do have 2 employees. So would we not be able to summon the second employee, who's part-time, to attend only during those trials for that, you know, period of time?
Probably would, because one is busy with the trial,
Mhm.
and then another employee has to take care of the in and out.
Mhm.
I mean, are you going to have law enforcement here, security here?
Had we talked
Because
about...
we do upstairs, and I would require that for
Uh-huh.
the jury, so.
How many do you send over, Sheriff, during a jury trial?
Usually have 2, one outside to do the line for metal detector, and then we
had one inside, sometimes three, we have a jailer there.
How big a problem would it create for you if the jury was down here?
They're gonna have to have extra deputies, we're gonna have to secure it upstairs and then secure it down here too, at least another deputy down here.
So you would have to
But
have
you
that 30
understand,
person.
you understand where we're coming from. How much money do we spend on a room up there for 2 or 3 days a year? I mean,
And we were also talking about this year.
Or it could be a week-long trial.
Right. But we were trying to look into the future as
The
if.
last one was one day, the one before that was a week.
So if there are new things coming our way, I mean, I think we discussed with the county attorney, if you had some sort of television system that you needed installed in the courtroom and things like that, those are all some projects that may need to be co-coordinated with where the jury is going to end up finally. So is this a potential room to use for the next year until we actually have the funds and have the organization to create a more conducive situation? I mean, the courtroom has a lot of ability and potential. That wall in the back on the east, am I right on the east side?
It's the east side.
Yeah, that's just a faux wall. So there are a lot of options for rearranging. But we were kind of thinking, do we spend 10 to 15,000 now on a makeshift room? Or do we wait, a year into the future when we prepare our next budget and look at how we could better coordinate all of the changes, because we may be running electric lines and our internet, lines and things like that. We'll have people already in here tearing things apart potentially. So how could we better coordinate that? And would this suffice for the next year, where we may have 2 or 3 trials that, maybe they last a week or 2, but out of our budget, if we have to pay an extra deputy to be on hand, that is going to be more cost effective than an immediate construction problem that we can't necessarily project later on how we would undo that or redo that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. My experience with commissioners have been, you'll say you're gonna do that next year, but the money's not gonna be there next year either. I mean, that's just the way it is out in rural areas.
what about a jury room in that storage area? Is that out of question? I mean, the problem is, we've got a building here to deal with, that we
we're
just
not
can't go
altering
out
the
of space on
exterior
to.
structure.
You know,
Right,
it's,
right.
I think you have a lot of unused space back there, although it's filled with files and junk and storage. I
they're
mean,
kind of
that's,
going through.
But how do you suggest that the jury still be separated from the courtroom? Because if the court is in active session for whatever purpose and the jury is recessed, how do we transport them? They're gonna use the bathroom in the basement. That's the only bathroom option. I mean, as far as multiple people using the bathroom at once. So they're coming to the basement regardless. How do we get them to the jury room then?
okay, if it was my preference, that area back there would, when you're gonna sheetrock, you're gonna make walls, put in a bathroom and a room for the jury, and they can use the doorway. I mean, make it a real room, not a temporary. I wouldn't rely on that faux wall. That's a divider. That's,
I know, but a bathroom is a very large expense. I mean, you're talking about running plumbing clear from the basement because your drainage has to come clear to the basement as well. So that's a pretty big expense. I mean, that's pretty much the reason why we have bathrooms in the basement still and never have put them on the main floor.
It would take, I wouldn't guess.
have you
In
got
this
an
building,
estimate?
in this building, trying to run plumbing, basically runs it through the floors, and you have to build chases, and there's no way to put it in the wall. It's limestone, so, I'm not objecting to looking at that, but I think that the expense of it is gonna be tremendous.
If you're putting up a new wall,
I'm talking about a bathroom.
I know, a new wall or the plumbing to be hidden behind, between the space.
On that floor, but then we have
to go through the appraiser's
regular
office.
floor and the
Mhm.
next floor
Okay.
and into the concrete floor down here.
I am
So-
not a contractor, I get that.
So one other thought that I had, that, again, this might not be immediately feasible, whereas if we move the county attorney soon, then we need to have a temporary fix, which in our mind was this room. But let's just say longer term, I thought about, what if you change the orientation of the actual courtroom and put the judge's stand on the opposite side? You could actually go back into that room there for the judge's side, and you could enclose where that bathroom already exists on the third floor and actually make a jury room on that side, and then you wouldn't have to create any extra plumbing or anything like that. But that's a bigger project where you'd have to flip everything the opposite way. But then actually from the judge's chambers, you might say, they could be behind where that storage room is, which is not as much of a, doesn't take up as much space as a jury room would, and they could possibly use the back door, through the old jury room to get out instead of, but either way, I mean, the way it is now, you still have to walk out through the courtroom to get out through the district court's office. So there's that option of reorienting everything. But that, in my mind, is a little further down the road if we were to do something that big. But that would take away the need for a bathroom, if there is an existing bathroom. I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone has the exact answers, but.
I just needed to know where you were at. How about you guys?
One of the considerations is during a jury trial, while the jury's in session, access to the jury room needs to be controlled in some way, because you don't want some outside person coming in and distributing placing some kind of materials or something that the jury shouldn't see in the jury room. And up there, the way it is right now, we have that we can exercise that kind of supervision. So that would be another reason for having it somewhere up there. We can control it.
This door does lock, correct? I don't think we keep it locked, but.
Yeah.
Well, we have a jury trial in October, I believe, but we won't be utilizing the jury room for an office at that time.
No, that's correct.
So that
How
takes
soon
us
is this move taking place?
pretty quick.
We're aiming for January 1 for the new budget to have everything transitioned.
But obvious, the next jury trial possibly January, you said?
Potentially.
Potentially.
So I think there is jury trials. I think there is issues that have been said that we may need to be dealing with in quick succession. So like I said, I know I need one office right now to put everything in and to run the county attorney's office. I'm open to whatever we transition. I just feel like if we're going to be moving a lot of things around and dealing with a lot of stuff, I think Dawn and I briefly discussed this, we may need to contact someone who knows what they're doing about all of that, if we're going to be, walls and things. I mean, obviously you have a great deal of experience in all of that, so when you say it's going to cost money, I believe you. But that was something, if we're going to be doing something significant, we may need to hire an architect or talk to somebody about how this is actually going to work.
The office in the northeast corner isn't big enough for a jury. Correct? I mean, that's
Wait,
rule that
northeast?
out.
The south,
Or southwest corner. So you can rule that out.
I would immediately, I said it was too small, and when I went in there, there's so many windows. And heating and air upstairs is kind of an issue. I just thought it would be
Well,
a heat box.
We're part of the big plan is to solve the heating and air problem on the third floor. But it's kind of like Alexis said, we need to do, this plan needs to be done at once. We can't go in and start putting heating and air in one place that's not going to be
Right.
what it is
Right.
in 6 months,
Let's
So-
don't piecemeal it, do it.
Yeah, yeah.
At least
we
have
wanna
a
build-
plan.
Well, we're working on it.
I actually liked Alexis's idea of building the judges' chambers, changing, because that wall is livable as well, I would say. Come out further into the jury room and take your current office.
Well, Well, and I'm assuming, just with the stone structure, that wall is not any weight-bearing wall that sits between the judge's chambers little desk area and then the entrance where that door is. If you pop that out so that the jury might leave their chairs and come directly back into there, you'd have at least triple that space there right next to the bathroom. There would basically just be the bathroom and the jury room right there and next to your office, and there would just be one entrance. And like you said, that keeps them secure. They're already inside the courtroom. You would insulate that interior wall well so that there's about a sound barrier. And then you'd basically take the stand where the judge sits and all of the equipment there, put it on the other side of the room, and you'd reorient all the benches to face that, where am I at, east instead of west.
Would we be able, in this instance, to get a new judge's bench to be more in line with other districts where the clerk is able to be on the bench to help run the computer?
You mean instead of sitting down on the...
Right now, I sit basically in the gallery.
You're like
There's
down
no
in the
space.
little
There's no
desk area.
space, yeah, beside.
Well, what I'm suggesting
so
is
if we
we
were-
take a whole section out of that storage room and push it back. You basically just create a cove there, and that, yeah, I mean, you could do whatever you want with that space, I suppose. And then you would have a door that you could actually exit the courtroom from your chair and even your bench out
What about-
through the back of the office.
And then your jury box is put over here in the corner, so you're gonna have to move it too. correct?
Probably, because I was thinking, my chambers, and then that little, where we have the coffee pot stuff, and then restroom, that's not big enough for a jury.
Well, no, you would extend that wall out to, you
Right.
would use that space where the chair is, it would be inside of the room. So you'd have double that
And so
depth.
then your jury box has to move, because they're kind of looking at a wall then.
Yeah, we
But
probably have to
that's
look
not-
at
I
it or
don't think
plot
that's
it
a-
out.
I mean, we're talking about moving chairs and building a platform, but that's pretty cheap.
Mhm. It eliminates all the plumbing needs because there is a bathroom there.
And if you're pulling the pews up, you could maybe just pull them up. and
Redo the floor.
install something that's a little bit more.
We're all on the same page if you're looking at that.
In that concept, where would the trial judge's chambers be?
In where the storage area is now,
Okay,
which I guess that would all depend on how you have your storage set up in the back, Jennifer, but if they were able to use that door to get through that main office, if you wanted in or out, then you wouldn't even have to go through the courtroom again. You could leave through what is now the jury room. There's a door between the jury room and that storage area, so you could actually exit that way to get to your office, or if you wanted to get...
There's 2 doors. At the north and at the south.
Yeah, the one at the north then comes back into the courtroom. The one at the south would just go through the office then. And we actually have a setup
It opens
picture.
into the courtroom.
Which one?
Oh,
Well,
they're in
okay,
the
but there's
jury room.
another door that goes into the office, which is now the jury room. The jury room has a door into that storage area, and that's all open
I didn't
back there.
realize that.
Yeah. Which may be conducive to not having to go back through the courtroom for certain things. I mean, it depends, but this,
Just matter if they make the county attorney mad. They'd have to be executed through the county attorney's office.
but that's only during a trial. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be, but this is the jury room, so that would be the change. If it was not the jury room and was now the county attorney office space, that's what you're looking at. And can you show her the door?
This door leads into the storage room, so it's like this.
This is the main
This
entrance.
is the main entrance, and the stairs are here. And
And that door goes
this
in,
is all storage.
and you could actually then get to the courtroom that way and not have to come through the other way. Did you want to see that?
If you
Thank
want
you.
to as you're doing your budget, estimate for that kind of setup, I think that's workable. She got an estimate for moving out those files, or breakdown. It's expensive.
To move wherever they were to go, that's what they're telling me it would cost. The back pages are essentially quotes. It's the GSA and federal rates. And then file safe's rate is on the front there, it's about $4,000. And that's if we lock that in by October 1, there is the price increase.
Yeah,
And
we
I'm
got,
sure you were made
We
aware
have
of that.
several,
we got a
yeah,
couple
from the
other
different
deals we're
offices.
working on to
Where are you
accomplish
moving,
before
where are you
that-
moving these to?
That is,
That's just to enclose them so that you can have the
Yeah.
one separate that you wanted and to do all the moving and
yes.
Do they move all the files too?
We will have to unload, they will move them, but it is like $150
Additional
an
charge.
hour for them to take them out.
So you have to have it empty?
You have to have them empty, ready to go when they get here.
Where are they moving them?
Well, right now they're,
We don't wanna move them twice,
Yeah.
so we kinda.
yeah.
But we can make this
They
purchase
had
and then
made
schedule.
the plan to move them some into our office, and then some into what would be Jennifer's office conference room. She had said that would be okay. That was our original plan. If things are changing, that's the price no matter where they move them to.
So we could,
And when do they
Contract
have
with
to
them.
move? When do they,
October 1st.
when will they move? Whenever we tell them to move?
That's how I understood it, was
The
they would
plan-
have to set up a time and
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
give us time.
But I mean,
But
it
if
wasn't
we
like
had-
we don't, at 30
Right.
days, we
The
need to
October
have.
1st deadline was for the
I
steel
can double
prices,
check,
the
yes.
metal prices. So we have to at least contract
Approved.
that done so they can have it ordered and then we can see how flexible they are with their scheduling.
I guess that'd actually be September
Because you can't do that
30th,
until
because
David's
October
equipment is
1
out of
is
there. That would be a nightmare.
And he seemed to be aware of all the changes that had to happen prior to anything happening. It sounded like he wanted to be able to work with both Jennifer and I think Don was also getting
Yeah.
something to where we could try to get it within
Well, and it'd be, yeah, better for
the
us.
same visits.
yeah. I
Whether
think
that be
Is
that's-
there
2 or 3
delivery
days.
fee?
we have 3 different offices working. I will try to do them all at the same time, that way, before the 1st. Now I guess we'll just continue to try to work together to find a solution.
I do have a couple questions, Judge Cudney. One of them is the amount of space that's presently in the courtroom. Could that be reduced by size of our county, or do you really want that much courtroom space?
Well, we use it all the first day of trial. I wouldn't want to give up much space.
That's just what I wondered.
Because in some of the courthouses where we have a small courtroom, it's the second courtroom. And you know, things are pretty contentious sometimes, and it's uncomfortable in that small courtroom where you are shoulder to shoulder, and those people really don't like each other.
One thing we looked at, I think we both talking about is the possibility, if we go into there with the jury room and stuff, we talked about taking out one pew in the north east side and extending that wall out 4 or 5 feet. That would be the only shrinking, I guess, of the courtroom that I could see happening, would be just one pew removed.
And that wall would come out into the courtroom.
The wall would come out in the courtroom.
I
So would,
Basically,
now, are you
would we
talking-
lose 2 heat registers then in the courtroom?
Well, the whole long-term plan is to cut the boiler system off at the
Okay.
second floor. So the boiler system will eventually only be responsible for the basement and the first floor. Each individual room will be controlled with its own unit. It's called a split system, if I'm
Yeah,
saying
like
that.
what they have in Mitchell County. Is that
I
right?
don't know, but the schools are doing it.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we got the idea, and then we could individually control each room, which is more conducive since some rooms aren't used every day. They don't need to be heated and cooled every day, and it kind of helps us balance the need for energy.
Your scenario, was with the jury room on the east side or on the west side?
That was with it on the east side. That was the only consideration we really did as far as reducing the size of the.
And the issue is still how do we get them from that
Yeah.
room to the downstairs to use the bathroom back and forth? But there's also the option of the reorientation happening to the north, which would then close off the stairway. You could close off the stairway and have that, your judges' chambers, if you left the jury there
I don't know if we could close off that stairway.
for fire hazard reasons.
Yeah, I would.
Not close
question
off,
that.
not make it unusable,
Oh,
but
okay.
just to put the wall in front of it, and you have to actually access a door to get to that back stairwell. Do you use that often?
I was
Does
going to
anyone use that
ask,
stair-
is it,
It's probably just for
Passing.
Fire escape.
Yeah.
My other question,
Or your
Judge
escape.
Cudney, is that, given the recent problem they had in Jewel County, do you look for the court to mandate higher security 24 hours, I guess, in the part of the judge and the attorney and clerk of the district court? Do you think that's a possibility that's coming down the pike?
not from me. And I have not heard that talk from the Supreme Court. I would say since Jewel County occurred, and I've been to several counties, the commissioners are all discussing that. And in my 6 counties, 4 have an electronic metal detector that you walk through. There has been some talk of moving those, utilizing that for the courthouse, not just the court, which means one entrance. And for almost all of our courthouses, that ends up being the basement because that's what's handicap accessible. I don't know that anybody's going to do that. Right now, Republic County is the only place where there is court security every single day, whether there's court going on or not. They budgeted for that from the get-go, and that's the way it's been.
So is that one floor they have blocked off?
And they have a jail on that floor.
Oh, they have a jail.
And they have security every day it's open, there's security.
And is just the district court up there and the county attorney or on that floor or?
County attorney's not on that floor, the sheriff's office and the jail, and the clerk's office, and all the courtrooms.
I see.
All, they're all set up kind of different, but when, in Washington County, because that's one that does not have an electronic walkthrough, and it's not, the expense of that is really, in the scheme of things, not so much $3,000 or $4,000, but it's the personnel side.
Yeah, yes,
It's
that's
the
what's
big
killing us,
expense.
yeah, the personnel kills us, yeah. And it's pretty hard to justify if you only have 1 or 2 people walking through it a day.
Is that all that comes into your courthouse?
No, I meant upstairs into the
Oh.
courtroom, into the, if we had to secure that top 3rd floor with a metal detector as you came on that floor, I don't know how many people you see. Do you see 10 people a day up there?
Probably depends on the day.
That's probably a good average.
That becomes pretty expensive, 8 hours of somebody standing there checking them,
Right.
And as I visit with
I
the.
would be more in favor of one entrance to the courthouse and providing security
Okay.
to all the employees.
All of them instead of just the court.
Because I don't know when someone's going to be irate with the treasurer or you.
Yeah.
Usually it's only one day a week for us.
Okay, so
We'll
Treasurer
just make sure to
gets it
secure
every
that
day.
day.
last week, did you get to hear the commotion?
No.
We had a defendant that
wasn't
Apparently they
happy.
could on the main floor, but we can't in the
The
basement.
was escorted from the courthouse.
Yeah.
I don't know the day it's going to be. I only know that I don't think it's if anymore.
Yeah,
Obviously.
but you're right, to secure this courthouse, it has to be in the basement. And then you have, makes it harder for people, I mean, it's just more inconvenient. And we have a easy back door, you know, that would have to be locked. People just won't understand for a while.
But if you
I
have,
think that, we were discussing that upstairs, and there will always be a group of people that don't like it, and they'll say, I'm a farmer, or, you know, I've got pliers, and I've got pocket knives. And yet, I think they're getting used to it, because you go to the airport, or you go to a football game. I just told them I had to empty there's nothing that goes into a football stadium. I went to the game on Saturday. You put your stuff in a basket and walk through, so it's probably cheaper than the wrongful death when your employees get
Yeah.
shot at.
half of our constituents never go to town, let alone.
Okay.
That's very true.
Well, thank you,
I just
Judge.
want to stay in touch, okay,
Yeah.
so that we don't have miscommunication.
We
and
won't do
You
anything.
get upset or I get upset, so.
We
I
won't
think-
do anything without.
Right, your October trial is not going to be affected, but when we look toward the change of the year, maybe we can have something written down as far as our long-term plan. and
I'm not
make it more-
opposed to this on a temporary basis, but I wouldn't want temporary to all evolve into permanent.
Mhm.
I really don't like separating the jury from the court.
Well, I think it's our intent to do something with it. We don't. I understand that this wouldn't work forever and ever and ever, you know, but it's trying to get everything switched around. But we'll do some more measuring up there. If you're not, don't have any objection to turning possibly the courtroom 180 degrees or whatever, we could look at that, do some measuring and see if it's feasible. We could do a lot of work up there, not having to build a new bathroom. If we could somehow make that work.
That's thousands of dollars we could put to other use.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the plumbing alone, just the labor, like you said, is intensive on something like that, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Judge Reddick. We'll do something here before the first, so.
On the files.
Yes,
on the files.
I was going to ask
have
Dawn,
Very vague letter.
there's a freight estimate on each one of these. Can we call and ask and say, if we make our purchases for all 4 filing cabinets, can you reduce our freight fee?
Okay, on those are GSAs.
I don't know what that means.
That's the federal government rate and the state
State
government
rate.
rate. So up above is the actual cost of the material, and then down below is where the person is at. So, basically, like what he did is added in what the freight charge is to get the equipment to his place on that. Because as a contractor, he could purchase the units for us. So that's basically what it would cost to ship the units here.
I know, but I'm
Ship
saying,
units.
if we're making 4 separate purchases, that's one freight. He should be able to reduce our freight costs, because,
He did inside his bid, that would be basically broke down what the reduced rate for freight would be if his, I'm not
Okay.
exactly appropriately, so,
I'll talk to you about it later. We can move on.
Okay.
Mike, you guys ready? Morning.
Morning. Well, there's several things we need to talk
Okay.
about today. Last week, we had to terminate the employment of one of our communication officers. So we're probably going to have to hire another one.
Okay.
one issue. The other one is Tony, one of our communications officer, we're requesting a 25-cent an hour raise. She's completed the TAC training, and she's now our alternate TAC officer. So she'll be working along with Jessica on the TAC-related communication stuff.
What's that stand for? It's an acronym.
Terminal Agency Coordinator. They're in charge of making sure if we're in state compliance with the NCIC computer, warrants are validated, tokens for our dispatchers and employees are current, non-expired. That everybody's received their NCIC trainings for the year, current on that, so.
Okay, let's take care of that before we get too
I
far
would
into the
move.
list here.
That Tony be given 25 cents, completion of her TAC training.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I don't wanna get lost in
Right.
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I understand.
Affecting.
Effective when, Mike?
She's already completed it.
She's already
last
completed
Thursday.
her training, so immediately,
Immediately.
yes.
Pay period.
Pay period.
Up to
Yeah.
Yeah, so last pay period or just coming
When did she?
She completed this last Thursday.
Last
So it would be the
Thursday.
middle of the week.
Next pay
Yeah.
period,
Next, let's
yeah.
go next.
So September 26th.
Okay, then we have EMD training for all of the dispatchers. You want to
I'm looking
explain
to
that in
implement
detail?
that. It's the emergency medical dispatcher. In the past, I think David Doe might have been our last certified one. We've had, none of our dispatchers have been certified in that. Gosh, in probably 8 years, maybe.
I know at one
Basically,
time we
that's-
did, but quite a while ago.
Requires 24-hour training. If someone calls, maybe their husband's not breathing, the dispatcher can
How to give
reach out,
instructions on
give
the phone.
instructions, yeah, for any medical related illness or such. I was getting a hold of Mitchell County. They went through the APCO before for the training. They said it's kind of, the recertification through APCO is a little more difficult. We're looking at priority 1 dispatch. So I'm trying to get a hold of Becky Schaefer to find out more information. They're going to host a course or where the nearest courses will be. But based on scheduling, I can't get all the employees done at one time, so it'll have to be 1 or 2 at a time. Want to talk about possibility of a pay increase if they do complete that as well.
Didn't we used to get 25 cents? or
They,
something?
most of them already have a 25-cent raise, so anybody
From-
that's already been given
Oh.
that, because I know David already has. I'm not sure about Tony, I would have to look back, but Jessica, would just be your new hires that have.
So we don't have any that are EMD certified right now.
No, that's because they didn't renew their certification.
They had
So
been.
they've already been given 25 cents, so they wouldn't get an additional 25 cents.
They just didn't renew to have it up to date, is what you're saying. The
I
ones that
wonder if
already
we could-
received it.
Probably somewhere in employee records that might show the ones that have
Yeah, you
been
guys
given
have
the 25
Is
cents.
there a fee for that training?
There would be, yes, and I
And
need to
are you
figure out
gonna
what
do that out
is.
of your budget?
We would
or-
pay for that out of communications. As well as the recert every 2 hours. They have to have 22 hours every 2 years for recert. I believe there's a recertification fee for those teams.
Yeah, I believe in, whatever it costs. It's important. When
Especially
you got
with
somebody
such
out
a
there in that
long
phone that you
response
can
time,
really
just
save
because
a
it
lot.
just-
Yes.
It'll come out of our budget, so.
Yeah.
I know a couple of years ago, there was a baby delivered in Marquette from the dispatcher. But
So really, if they have that 25-cent increase, they need to be maintaining their certification.
Correct.
Which is kind of,
And since I've been undersheriff, I've never sent anybody to the training since 6 years. So it was all done prior to that.
yeah, the years go by too fast. I can't
Yeah.
remember what it was, but I remember one time we did that.
That's all we have.
I do have a question. it seems as though more and more and more, it's becoming an epidemic, I think. Out-of-state plates in the county. Texas plates, South Dakota plates, and I'm not talking about people that are visiting here. I'm talking about people that are living here and have been for a long time. Is there anything that we can do about it?
What I've done in the past is have the deputies contact these people and say, hey, you need to get current registration. If you don't, you're going to be cited for it. Now then there's a gray line there if they have dual residency, like if they live in Texas and they live in Kansas too, that's a gray area there.
Well, I know there are people that live part of the year.
But somebody that's just moved up here and they don't live out of state anymore, they need to get their registration.
And it's not a legal traffic stop to stop somebody for having out-of-state tags either, so it's kind of a,
You can't stop them, you're saying?
No, unless
So
it's just-
what about the license, does that have to do with your license though? What, I mean, wherever you can only have one driver's license per state, or
Right.
one driver's license. So if you pick a state, are you saying there's still a gray area if you have a Kansas driver's license, but you own a home in Texas, so you register your vehicle there? Is
Or
that
to
what you
register the
It's
boat.
registration wise, driver's license, if you reside in Kansas within, was it 30 or 90
that's where you
days,
spend a majority of your
majority
time.
of your time as a resident, that's, you need to have
Where you have your
a
driver's license.
license.
But you can't register the boat in 2 states either, can you?
No.
So,
You can't have two
So-
driver's licenses in other states either, you only have one driver's license.
Right, so I guess I'm asking then, what does the law say, where do you determine where your vehicle is registered? Let's say you live 6 months in each place, but you have a driver's license in one. There's no,
It's a gray area.
okay,
If we know for a fact that a person lives in Lincoln County, they live no place else, those
Then
are the
they're
ones that we've
violating the-
addressed. You
Violating
need to
the
update your
registration.
registration to Kansas.
well, we all know why they do it.
Well, yeah, it's
It's
cheaper.
cheaper taxes.
Other states,
But,
yeah.
you know,
Taxes.
there's some clunkers running around here with South Dakota plates on them. And I got a clunker that I drive back and forth to work. I think I pay $70 a year. And I suppose they're $25 a year in South Dakota, so they're saving a whole $50. You know, $40, whatever. So it's more of a go to hell deal for me, you know. They're basically using all of our services and saving themselves $40 a year. It just aggravates me.
You're part of the issue, that's your specific issue.
do we not have a local home rule ability to create some sort of resolution about that?
I doubt it. Sure, that's state law.
State law. Vehicle registration is state law.
Right, but that's, I mean, typically how it works is that's your foundational law. You can create additional stipulations on a local level for most things, as long as you're not violating the state law or, I mean,
Got it.
ultimately the federal law.
I don't think that we can change what residency means probably
I
over
don't
what
think that can
state
be
law
enforced
says.
at a local level.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd ask.
We have to check on legal backing too. If we tell somebody to register and they don't, are we able to enforce that in the courts as well? So some have complied that we've talked to, but
And then you have an issue, what if somebody from North Dakota owns property and a residence up there and here also, then what are you gonna do?
And it makes sense that you can't pull them over just for having a different plate, because they could be visiting and you don't know that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unlawful search and seizure or something, but, yeah.
just kind of approach. If we know they live here, we say you really need to register in the county, and
Yeah.
if they don't,
Well, I mean, I agree with you, Terry, because it adds up. You get all of those little fees that aren't paid, and it detracts from our overall ability to tax. But at the same time, when we have high taxes, people aren't going to want to participate, so you kind of have to do one or the other. You have to lower the taxes to give them incentive to register here and then collect that additional money, or you have to sacrifice and say that they're going to continue to avoid to pay, and our taxes are going to stay high.
Well, with the land use tax, there was a big shift over the vehicles and houses, and tax revenues. that's why taxes on vehicles are so high, because taxes on land are so low. But, okay, I just thought I'd bring it up.
So, yeah.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got anything else?
Yes, we need to send a letter to Grace team indicating that we are going to, forgot what the word is, intend, yeah, to continue negotiations on the change of the rest of them. The other issue that that has come up this week that I've thought about is that I think as we move towards this change, I think we need to get prepared, and I guess I would like for the other two commissioners to think about the fact that maybe we ought to establish that board now so they can get to working on wages and how it's going to be managed. As I have thought about this, I know we've talked about having one appointed by the commission. I think time is of essence. I think that the nonprofit foundation that has done a lot of work in this area, they do have a hospital board member on. I think it won't be any problem for them to add a commissioner to that. And I guess I would think that we might want to start with that board, knowing that it eventually may change and that we may ask for representation from various parts of the county. But I think they're probably more aware right now of what needs to be done and how to do it. And so I guess I would like you to, this week, consider formally establishing them as probably the board that is going to enter into a management agreement with the
I'm just going to, I'm
commissioners.
going to voice my objection.
Excuse me, I'm not finished, please.
No, that-
Please.
You're
You've talked all
asking
morning,
something.
you've talked all morning, and I've said very little, and now I'm talking.
What does that
and
have to do with you asking me to consider something that is preposterous?
You interrupted me, and I find that very disrespectful, but I'm finished. You can go ahead now.
You are opening a gateway, you're opening a floodgate to say that any group can form a self-funding profit initially and then come to the county commission for a position of authority. That is just completely unconventional and unacceptable. If at any point in time a group wants to come forth, and this is exactly what happened with the Council on Aging. You had a group called the Going 60s Club that then created the Council on Aging and then wanted to create a tax, and then they became the sole recipient of that tax countywide. You cannot just have a group self-form and then as a private entity and then come forward and request tax money and control over any particular situation. If we do not create this at its foundation with stipulations set forth by the commission, which include geographical locations, as we've already discussed, and you've priorly agreed to, Mr. Wallace, I cannot accept that. That is just asinine.
You've stated your opinion, and I can have asinine opinions, I guess, but I do not think that maybe you are aware of the time frame that we may be dealing with, and that is my concern.
I'm very well aware of the time frame.
It takes time for a board to get organized and to establish itself. And
If you'll remember, it was more than a year ago that I informed you about the setup of the nursing home and how Lincoln County was an anomaly in the way that we're doing this. And I suggested long ago, we've had more than a year to consider what I brought to the table about running it as an appointed board, similarly to the hospital. I've already said all of this more than a year ago. And so now all of a sudden, because there's a time constraint, we have not even verified if there may be any stockholders with that company on this board that you're proposing. I mean, we need a verification of stockholders of the corporation itself. It's totally illegal to hand over a corporation, potentially, to a group of people, and when they're going to manipulate it with tax dollars, we don't even know who are the owners in this. There's been no verification of anything substantially, and I think until Jennifer brings us some sort of actual legal opinion from a person who works in that realm, I mean, that's not Jennifer's field as far as an attorney goes. We need some legal input. We cannot be doing this without legal input. It's too dangerous, and there are too many open ends.
I'm finished.
We need to,
I do need
Agreed.
I do need a permission for that letter to be sent, though. I would appreciate it.
I'll have to go up and modify, so you guys look at it.
You mean with the letterhead or whatever?
Yeah.
We'll need a letterhead and we'll need to sign it, yes.
Yes, we need to get that changed.
yeah, I think we need to forward this letter. I think that we need to keep the negotiation process going.
I don't oppose to the committee talking and us forming a board, but to just hand over authority to a board that is self-forming and making propositions to the commission, that is going to be negative backlash in every aspect. And I will further continue by saying that I've done some of my own investigation, and what I have found now that there's been a lot of outreach from the KDAD's department. Basically, in order to establish a new establishment, which you would build new or purchase a facility that hasn't been opened, or to transition a working facility as what we're looking at doing, you have to actually create that. It's not just about the facility license, but it's about the billing process through the state, which then ultimately ends up with the federal aid that comes from Medicare. And so when we're talking about a negotiation, if we're talking about a purchase, you know, we already own the facility, so what are we purchasing? We need to make it clear to the public what we are purchasing. And from my understanding of what's been explained to me, what we're purchasing is the payee agreement. We become a payee for Medicare. So whether they're paying out Medicare, Medicaid, or collecting, you know, self-pay monies, we become that recipient, so we become the payee. And in that case, we need to establish what a price is to be able to do that. And if not, then there are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through to establish a new payee number. So, you know, I think we've been misled as far as what that license means, because it's not just about the facility license. That should be relatively easy to get. I spoke with a nursing home who received one in 60 days. It's basically transferring the patient accounts that go through Medicare and making sure that we can still receive payments without having to start all over, which means if we do that, we would have to obtain a zero deficiency report from CMS. This, you know, creates a large problem. We've never had a zero deficiency report. There are a few places that have ever even had a zero deficiency report. It's a policy problem. I don't know how they can demand that you would have a zero deficiency report in order to establish being a recipient of payment. But, you know, if we're talking negotiations with money, we need to establish exactly what we are purchasing. And we have not seen an inventory list of what we're potentially purchasing, and we have not been made aware of whether or not we are purchasing those pay agreement numbers from Medicare. So that needs to be established before we can assign someone to oversee the operation.
Is this okay with everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you get a chance to look at this? Okay, I'll go put it on letterhead while you here.
It's also my understanding that we are having two separate entities, which would be similar to the hospital, where there's the foundation that is eligible to receive the money, but there is the appointed board that conducts the administrative duties. Is that what we're going for?
Foundation is just 501c3 on the
Correct.
hospital.
Correct.
The other one is not, the board isn't set up to receive donations
Correct.
as a 501c3, so that's
So
the
is
reason
that-
for the 501c3. If you're going to do fundraising, there has to be a 501c3.
Or if you're going to take donations, right. So is that the model that we are trying to replicate?
It seems to be working fairly well there, from what I've seen.
So then, Mr. Wallace, are you asking that this Lincoln Manor Incorporated self-appointed group become the foundation which is eligible to receive financial aid as a
If they-
501c3?
If they are a 501(c), they can receive money.
And are you asking that they are playing the role of the foundation which receives that money in any
I
way,
am
shape, or form?
suggesting that we use those people as a basis for establishing a board.
But I'm talking about two separate things. We just clarified there are two separate entities. So the appointed board, which performs the administrative duties.
I believe Hicks County is using their 501(c) board as their board for operating their nursing home.
So we're not looking at the same model as the hospital.
The hospital, as I understand it, there is state law that creates that. I am not aware, nor has anybody been told me that there is a state law that allows a county to establish a board like they did at the hospital. Now, I may be wrong on that, but so far we have not found that to be the case.
Well, the actual hospital board is not a 501(c)(3).
No, it was
Correct.
established by law. It was established according to state statute.
But there are other counties who appoint a board.
I'm not suggesting that we not appoint the board. I'm suggesting that we use that pool of people.
Yes, you're saying
That
that we
have stepped
appoint the
forward.
people that have already come to us, but,
I'm saying we establish a board from them, yes.
well, I believe it needs to be more integrated than that. I think it would be helpful to have,
I'm not saying that is all that it is, but I said that would be a starting point. Some of those people could be a starting point to get this organized so that when we have a recommendation on how to change ownership of that nursing home, that we're ready, up and going. And that's the only thing that I'm asking.
I thought that was the point of the committee. We've already appointed a committee for that
The
exact purpose.
committee is figuring out how we're going to get to the change of ownership.
Right.
Once that happens, that committee is not going to be managing that nursing home.
Right, so I propose that we advertise for board positions for anyone within the county who would like to serve on the nursing home board, just as we advertise for anyone that would like to serve on the hospital board. It's got to be an even playing ground. We can't just hand pick and choose, especially not when a group came to us with a proposal requesting money to basically purchase a business. I think we need to put it out.
Sign the letter of declaration to intent to negotiate.
I forgot to change the date on that.
Oh.
It's a little letterhead, so I need to do that.
Oh.
Just make sure. Do you want me to add, if you have any questions?
As corrected.
Please contact,
So
blah.
today's date,
Yeah, but we have to sign. Yeah.
Do you
Huh?
want a section added that if they have any questions, please contact, blah, 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 or do you want just that?
no, I think we do need to ask, we were given a proposal with financial figures on it in executive session. I think we need to ask clarification. Would you please clarify?
That is being done.
Committee's working on that.
Well, then what's the point of this letter?
This letter is to fulfill the requirement for Grace Team, because he gave us a deadline.
The committee.
And we cannot meet that
The committee is
deadline.
not the commission. I think this is just that the commission intends to continue to negotiate, not the committee, just the commission.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But the letter that was sent to us, well, I guess it was addressed to the committee. Which was my concern in the first place. What are we doing having a committee doing financial negotiations on behalf of the commission?
We are not going to make that final decision. It will be presented to this commission to make that final decision.
But the final decision isn't the negotiation process. The negotiation process is what happens before that.
We are trying to figure out what to bring to this commission.
But what you're bringing are numbers, and what I said in the beginning was, I don't think we should be appointing a committee to financially negotiate a price. To find out the process by which we can obtain new licensure or do a transition, that's fine. But you're actually sending representatives to be negotiating a dollar amount on behalf of the commission, and then you're just gonna bring it to us for approval, you know.
We don't have to approve it.
I understand that.
I'm just gonna go change
I don't
the
think
date.
it-
Okay. I mean, basically, the committee came back with a report, which we disclosed in the public meeting. The committee said that they find the financial viability of the nursing home to be stable. That was a committee duty. They fulfilled that duty. What happened in the meantime was, after they had spoken with Grace Team, who I assume is the owner of Lincoln Park Manor, as far as we are aware, there was a letter sent to that committee with specific numbers on it from the owner of the corporation saying that this is what he's willing to sell for. And there was not a clear clarification of what all is being sold. There was an itemized list, there wasn't an inventory list, there was just there was a purchase option, which we talked about in a public meeting before. He had talked about a stock sale or an asset sale. And so I think the committee's duty is to find out, are we even able, as a government entity that intends on operating a 501c3, or funding, I should say, we are going to fund this 501c3. Is that 501c3 even able to purchase a corporation? When and if they purchase that corporation, do they have to dissolve the corporation? Because I know they can't actively run the corporation as a 501c3. They can invest in stock in any corporate entity, for-profit, but as a nonprofit, you may not own and operate a for-profit entity. So those are the unanswered questions the committee has not brought to us. I don't feel comfortable saying that the committee needs to bring back a financial offer for us to consider to make this purchase. We haven't clarified what the role is of the 501c3, let alone just to appoint a group that wants to be that 501c3. With a county budget is basically how this is happening. You're appointing members to participate in a nonprofit that spend a county budget or that utilize the county budget to do business. I think it needs to be put out to the public and advertised so that anyone has their option to apply, just as we do for all the boards who spend county money.
I'd move to sign the letter to Grace Team concerning the
Second.
intent to negotiate. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye. I move to advertise for positions of Lincoln County Nursing Home Board, Administrative Board. Correction. I move to advertise for positions for the Nursing Home Appointed Administrative Board.
I would like some time to consider that before I move to second the vote.
We were just talking about how time is of the essence. I think that if we're going to advertise it, we only have a weekly paper, we should begin doing that if we're concerned about time.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. I guess my question is, I'm not aware that this commission decided to establish a board.
You just requested that we appoint a board.
I did not. I just, I think you need to consider it. Think on it for a week. That's
Right.
all I said.
Right, and I think in the meantime, we can be advertising and see who out there is available that wants to be involved, that it was not involved in this particular group who got together themselves. While I applaud their efforts, and it doesn't mean we reject all of them, I don't think we simply just appoint those who have already propositioned us. If you're concerned about the economic impact of the nursing home on the entire county, then it needs to be put out to the taxpayers, not just a particular group that we have not verified or established has any vested interest. This is the same way Lincoln County has done business in the past that has put us in this predicament.
Oh, yeah.
It is. This is exactly how.
Yeah.
By passing from one
Do you
owner
ever
to the
get
next.
tired of talking?
No, I don't, Terry. You
Oh.
can listen to me all day.
No, I'm not going to.
Well, you have, so congratulations. According to Mr. Wallace, I've been talking all day.
Well, you
The point
have.
is,
You have, almost nonstop.
and both of you were here allowing this transition from owner to owner, and this is the situation we're in
You
now.
brought
So you're gonna
him.
transition to
You
another
brought
owner.
him here. You brought him.
I didn't bring him here
Yes,
to
you
buy
did.
the nursing home. I wanted us to put, if you remember correctly, I wanted us to put the nursing home up for sale and see who was interested. You refused. He
All
was
those-
contacted as a consultant.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. We'll adjourn until next Monday. Time to catch your breath.
The advertisement?
Yes.
Yes.